Today's episode of Darkness Radio is brought to you by Microdose. Get out of pain, get out of anxiety, and start treating yourself a little bit better. Try Microdose. Microdose is a CBD THC gummy that will get you out of pain, get you out of anxiety, and get you into feeling good again. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use the code DARKNESS to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Links can be found in the show description, but again, that's microdose.com, code DARKNESS. Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Got a good show for you today, folks. Before we get to it, I want to remind you a couple of things. Go to darknessradioshow.com on the paranormal side of things. Check out Bob Dennis's Untold Legends, Stranger Truths. I have to remember the name of the show. There's a tab for it, though. Go ahead and click on that. Check out the microcast. It's less than 5 minutes. It's a different paranormal topic every day. And give him some love. Also, let him know what you think of the show. I believe there's a little link in there somewhere where you can click on and let him know after every show what you think of the show. Once again, Untold Legends, Stranger Truths, I believe, is the name of the show. It's got its own tab right there on the website, darknessradioshow.com. Also, when it comes to this program, True Crime Tuesday, you can go to originaltruecrimetuesday.com and listen to all the archives of True Crime Tuesday from the Patreon years, 2016 through 2020, I believe it is. All of those are free now. All the archives are up. That's at originaltruecrimetuesday.com. Be sure to go ahead and check that out as well. Let's get into today's program, shall we? I know the name of the show is True Crime Tuesday, but occasionally we get into fictional books. And we want to get into one today that I got the pleasure of reading over the weekend and was quite enthralled with it. It's called A Nest of Snakes, and it's a debut novel from Deborah Levison. She's an author and publicist. Her life has two parts. The first was in Canada, where she attended University of Toronto and the Royal Conservatory of Music, and the second in Connecticut, where she lives with her 3 children, 2 doodles, and 1 husband. And I hear that one husband might have to answer for something by the time we get done with this show. Her first book is an acclaimed nonfiction called The Crate, which is a true crime story with echoes of the Holocaust. We'll talk to her a little bit about that today as well. Reviewers called it gorgeous and poetic, heart-wrenching, and a brilliant story. The Jerusalem Post wrote, exquisite. The book won 7 literary awards. Levison's debut novel, A Nest of Snakes, is part thriller, part courtroom drama, based on real-life abuse at elite New England private schools. Reviewers called it a roller coaster ride of surprising twists, leading to a staggering climax and absolutely perfect ending. Monster Librarian hails A Nest of Snakes as one of the fall's most talked about novels. You can go to our website, www.debbielevison.com, Livison.com, and find her on Facebook and Instagram as well. We'll have those links up right here in the description of this show. Let's welcome into True Crime Tuesday, Debbie Levison. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. You know, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed sitting down with this book this past weekend and just kind of letting myself melt into this book. That's the best way to put it, and just kind of get lost in it. You know, there are lots of twists and turns to this. Brendan, the main character, is a kid you really just, as he's grown into adulthood in this book, is a character who, although you typically wouldn't feel sad for someone who's of privilege, we'll put it that way, you really do feel sad for, because he's really been abandoned from the start, you know? And as he's been abandoned, he's kind of the kind of guy you want to put your arm around and go, man, I know life hasn't been rough to you physically, financially. It's been rough to you emotionally. And you really have not had love in a sense of true love, has he?
You hit the nail on the head. When I was creating the character of Brendan, I really wanted him to have that sort of poor little rich boy quality to him, where, his parents were really absorbed in their own lives when he was growing up. And that set the stage for him being abused in the boarding school that he went to, because his parents really turned a blind eye to what he was going through. And he felt, that isolation and that loneliness of not having a family to turn to. And his abusers also knew that he was in large part abandoned and left to his own devices. And so that made him almost the perfect prey.
Debbie, I got to ask you this before we start getting into A Nest of Snakes. And it is A Nest of Snakes that we're getting into. It's an apropos title. When I graduated from high school in 1988, so the book resonates with me. So you're talking early 80s is when this book takes place, as far as preparatory goes, preparatory school that we're talking about here. Because you're going in 1982, 83, I believe, is when the book takes place here. So as I'm sitting down with this, I'm putting myself back in that mindset of the 80s. And I'm saying to myself, okay, when I was around this age, how easy would it have been to try and pick me off? Because keep in mind, as a teenager, okay, I was a child of divorce. So my parents divorced right around the age of 13. Okay. So when you talk about vulnerable kids being left in an isolated area, I didn't go to a prep school, by the way, I went to public school, but mind you, we had some scandalous things happen behind the scenes. And I'm going to draw the parallel here. It's a kind of a long parallel, but I'm going to draw it here. We had things happening with teachers behind the scenes. But much like Brendan and the things that were happening behind the scenes at his preparatory school, they weren't ever brought to light. In fact, if things were happening between teachers and students, and much like with Brendan here, at the time they were happening, you just didn't come forward and talk about it. It was well known. I think what the difference between what was happening with Brendan and other students and Brendan and other teachers and what was happening in my high school is everybody knew about it in my school. Everybody knew about it. Yet you didn't say a word. We talked about it amongst each other. But there was no way you would think about going to an authority figure.
So, well, it was much the same in Brendan's school, the fictional school that I created for him here in New England, where there was such a cloak of secrecy over everything that was happening, even though everyone was aware. Mm-hmm. And the story, and I think we should really give a quick little synopsis to the listeners, right? You want me to go ahead and do that?
Go ahead. Yep. Yeah.
So basically the story is about a very broken, middle-aged man who is showing very clear signs of PTSD. He's having nightmares. He's suffering from chronic depression, agoraphobia, and he's very lonely. He's really isolated in this mansion in Connecticut, and really only goes out of it to see his psychiatrist once a week. And his only support system is a housekeeper and her son, who functions as his groundskeeper and his chauffeur. And Brendan has been isolated, has sort of imposed this self-isolation on himself for so long that really his contact with the outside world is through computers. And so he's become a bit of a computer whiz. And he spends a lot of time trolling these clandestine chat rooms, hunting for pedophiles. Okay. And we learn that right at the beginning of the book.
Yep.
So right away, we assume that he's been abused.
Okay.
And just, near the beginning of the book, he's sort of pushed to his breaking point, and finally decides that it's time to take this giant step that he's been avoiding for decades, which is to go public with his story and talk about the abuse that he suffered as a child and actually launch a lawsuit against the very elite private boarding school that he attended in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the whole story of him prepping for the trial and then testifying and all the things that go haywire during the lawsuit and the other characters that are involved, you know, his very supportive attorney and his psychiatrist who has his own agenda, and then the opposing counsel. And so there are a host of other characters. And then, as you said, some twists.
Mm-hmm.
And really it's about him testifying and then in the climax of the book, finding out secrets that he really was shocked to hear and, you know, to hear come to the surface during the trial.
Right.
And a lot of the book really does mirror real life events. I mean, loosely. But so to circle back to what you were talking about, there being this whole culture of secrecy back in the 80s. So I think there were probably two reasons for that. Number one, there wasn't the type of communication that we have now. The kids didn't have cell phones. There was no internet. There was no, you know, Facebooking and messaging and Instagram and everything else where kids can air everything about their lives online. Mm-hmm. And there was no Me Too movement where victims in particular could come forward with their stories. But I also think that back then there was a very different attitude towards authority figures, don't you think? I mean, we really had respect for our teachers back then. We were told by our elders, you know, this is the way it's going to be, and we obeyed a lot more, I think, than kids now.
Right.
And I mean, we see that in all walks of life, right? Like we even just have to look at senators. You know, we have these young kids coming into politics who are butting heads with politicians who have decades of experience on them, and they have absolutely no qualms about speaking their minds and, you know, putting people in their place.
Yeah.
So I think just that whole attitude has really changed over the years.
True. Although we did as well have some kids who rebelled against the system and wouldn't be afraid to tell you where things lied as well. But there was something that would keep those kids from going so far as to reveal the truth. And that was this wall. There was always this wall that kept them from going so far and would shut them down. And what's interesting between real life, and I'll draw this parallel between real life and your book, is that wall definitely existed. And I think you do a brilliant job of showing in A Nest of Snakes that wall existed and it was firmly in place, no matter if it was imagined or if it was there in real life. And you connect the dots in between. And I'm not trying to give away too much about the book here by saying who or what. But there's a connection between each part of administration in its own way that shows you that even if you turn to one side or another, someone has got somebody's back. And it's hard to come forward and say, well, I'm having this issue. Well, you have. Well, have you told so-and-so? Well, I can't, because if I do this, and it makes that person look, pardon the language here, it makes them look crazy. If they say, I'm having this issue, well, but did you report it here? I can't, because if I report it here, they know this person. Well, no, that's not an excuse. You need to report it. And then it all gets lost in the paperwork. And for people, I shouldn't say of my advanced age, but people of my age who say,
hey, I'm older than you, careful.
But for people of my age who might have had experiences like that, who tried to say something at the time and got caught in that web or that wall and said, you know what, I tried to do something, but I got stonewalled. And all these years later, just gave up. It was just, one of those experiences I had to live through. And now maybe they're part of that system where they say, you know what, maybe you just got to live through it. Much like Brendan's father in in this book who at one time tells Brendan, you know what, it's part of coming up in this culture. You know, you got to fight your way through it, not realizing what Brendan's going through at the time.
Right.
It's a sad look at our society. Whether this, Debbie, be fiction or not, you've accurately portrayed what it is that we all go through from generation to generation. And I have to ask you this question because you so eloquently put it when you were putting the synopsis of this together, what A Nest of Snakes is about. And it's this: even though we have technology, even though we've got apps and we've got the Me Too movement, and even though we've got a closer knit society via technology, why is it we still have problems with this not being put out completely in the light, and it's still happening?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have to look much further than the Catholic Church scandal, you know, where the priests who were abusers themselves were shuffled from one parish to another with no disclosure to the parishioners about what their history held. And, I think a lot of the problem is that we still, even in 2022, don't always believe what children say. Mm-hmm. And children will tell adults oftentimes what's happening to them. And parents, for whatever reason, don't want to believe them, don't believe what they're saying, you know, write them off as overly dramatic or too imaginative or just liars. And it's very, very sad that even when people, kids and people do have the courage to come forward and talk about issues, even then they're often not believed. And same thing, you know, with women coming forward to talk about rape or some other crime. So it's still very much a problem.
I'm going to ask a really tough question here, Debbie, and go ahead and give a tough answer if you want, or beg off of it if you want. Are we cowards as parents when it comes to being confronted with the truth? And that is, a child comes to you and says, you know what, I'm being touched in an inappropriate way and I need your help. I need you to help me. And if a parent turns a blind eye and says, well, you know, maybe you're exaggerating, or are you sure? Or they try to beg off of that question and they try to pass it back on to the kid. A lot of times when you first doubt that child, is it because you're a coward? Is that what it is? And you don't want to face the truth?
That's such a sad question. That's a tragic question. I mean, first of all, I could never
and let me
answer for other parents.
Let me clarify why I say this. Okay. I want to clarify why I ask it in this way, because I hear so many parents say, I would kill for my child. I would do anything for my child. I'd take a bullet for my child. But the minute a child comes up and says, somebody touched me inappropriately, every question comes out of the drawer. Are you sure? Are you sure it happened that way? Are you sure you know it happened that way?
Yeah. Well, I also think it depends who that someone is. What if the child is accusing a step-parent? And, you know, there's so much invested in that relationship between the parent the child is disclosing to, mm-hmm. and the other parent, the step-parent, perhaps, that the child is accusing. So, you know, that might be, again, I don't want to make excuses by any means, but, you know, what if that's the thinking of the parent? Well, there's so much invested in this relationship. How could my child possibly be telling the truth? Because if he or she is, then my world is going to fall apart. So easier to think that the child is not telling the truth than to risk, you know,
but see,
the end of a marriage or the end of a relationship that offers so much, whatever, stability or financial, whatever.
You're bringing it up, though, the core of cowardice there. What if something falls apart as part of this? You make a good example of it in A Nest of Snakes. I won't name the character, but the character uses cowardice to get the boys to do what he wants them to do. Boy, your mommy and daddy wouldn't love you so much if they saw these pictures.
Yeah. Yeah,
is
and
the line.
that really did touch on real life events too. The way the victims were really groomed in real life, and the way the abusers blackmailed them into doing what they wanted by, in my example in the book, using pictures and videos of the kids and threatening to show those films to the parents, and telling the children that their parents would just be so devastated and so disappointed in the children.
And using the fact that maybe their parents would fall out of favor in their profession. You know, maybe they'd lose their profession. Maybe they would lose their livelihood if they knew about what was going on behind these closed doors. It's things like that to me are just devastating, that we don't sit down with our kids and say to them, no matter what, I don't care what anybody tells you, nothing's going to happen to me if I defend you. Not a thing. I don't care. I'll go to jail for you. I don't care. You just come tell me.
Yeah, well, that should be in the parents' handbook. When we first have kids and we get that handbook, that's the first page, you know?
Yeah.
Come to me and tell me everything, and it'll be okay if you tell me everything.
Exactly. There's so many things when I sit and I read A Nest of Snakes that I think, you know, with one easy conversation, and maybe it's not so easy if you truly do fear these things, but with one easy conversation with a child, you could say, you know what? Don't ever fear that I'll walk away from you. Don't ever fear that you can't come talk to me. Don't ever fear or let fear come between us, because I've always got your back, and I would hope that you always have mine, and that we're a partner. We're a team here. You know, you and I.
Do you have kids?
I don't. I unfortunately.
You sound like you would be an absolutely fantastic dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the case of Brendan going to his parents, I tried to set up the circumstances so that Brendan's father was realizing this huge financial success in his career, and his mother was becoming this socialite. So they were really distancing themselves, and so had shuffled him off to this boarding school where he was in Connecticut. So I tried to set up those circumstances where he would feel like he couldn't approach his parents. And he knew that his parents had so much invested in his education at this school. You know, the tuition was exorbitant. And he knew that graduating from this school meant that he'd go on to an Ivy League school, which was expected of him. And he, so there were a lot of reasons he felt that he couldn't tell his parents. And so all of this plot, as you said, I tried to weave it all together to create the circumstances where it would be plausible that a child like Brendan could be abused.
One of the things that with Brendan's dad that amazes me, and with his mom, and you could tell that it's genetically, I think, handed down between the two to Brendan, is the kind of times where he can separate his emotions from what's actually going on, the aloofness. You know, his father could take off and put himself into his work. So at times Brendan could put himself into his work and not deal with things. The penchant for being able to run away and stay away from his son. Brendan has a son in this novel. He can stay away from his son so that he can work on himself to be a better person. He can justify that because his mother went off, and he can justify different things by, well, if mom did this, I can do this and it's okay. There's some interesting parallels in the book that set up Brendan as an interesting character. You know,
But I think in addition to what you were just saying about his mother giving the example of leaving and sort of justifying that it would be okay for a parent to leave a child, I think in Brendan's mind, he felt that he wasn't worthy to be a parent, to be in his son's life. He felt that he was too damaged emotionally and psychologically to offer anything to his son. And, his son is already, a young adolescent when Brendan realizes he needs to do better. He needs to find a way to heal himself enough so that he can be a part of his son's life.
Right. I tell you what, Debbie, let's take our break here. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about the inspiration behind A Nest of Snakes and what got you to write this book. And later on in the program, we'll talk a little bit about The Crate, your first book, and what got you to write The Crate. We'll do that when we come back. The book is A Nest of Snakes. It's available right now at Wild Blue Press. We've got links to it in the description of this program. And we've also got links to Debbie's website as well, so you can get to know her a little bit better. When we come back, we'll talk about Brendan's struggles, and we'll talk a little bit about what was the inspiration for Brendan and other elements in the book, and why a prep school. I'm curious as to why a prep school and the setting for this. I mean, it's almost the perfect setting for the abuses that happen in this book. So when we come back, more with Deborah Levison, the book again, A Nest of Snakes. We'll cover it when we come back here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Our guest is Deborah Levison. The book is A Nest of Snakes. It's out right now on Wild Blue Press. Deborah, I'm interested to find out, first of all, let's get into a little bit of the inspiration, if you will, for A Nest of Snakes. First, tell us what was the inspiration behind the main character, and then the inspiration for the story, and why a preparatory school? I'm curious.
So I think I'm going to reverse your question, if that's okay with you. I want to start with the inspiration for the whole story itself, because as I said earlier, it really is loosely based on true events. So a few years ago, I became aware of these lawsuits. There was a whole spate of lawsuits here in Connecticut where these middle-aged men came forward to talk about abuse in very elite private schools that they had attended as boys. And when I was reading through these lawsuits, the complaints themselves, I was horrified. I couldn't believe what these boys were going through. They were so young and so vulnerable. And there were so many adults complicit in the abuse. So, the lawsuits would outline all these experiences the boys were having, and it seemed like they were being abused from all sides, in real life. From the headmaster down to the teachers, and all the way down to the janitor. And everyone knew in these schools what was happening, and no one reported it to the authorities. No one protected the boys. And I just, I was reading through what was happening to them, and I just felt that this was such an important story to tell. And I decided to fictionalize it. And then when I was creating Brendan, Cortland, who's the protagonist, so that was really interesting for me. So first of all, I have a background in psychology. That's what I studied. And so it was kind of interesting for me to create a character who was so psychologically flawed. But even more than that, I am a child of Holocaust survivors.
Okay.
And so growing up, besides my own parents, I had a whole circle of Hungarian families around me where the parents had also survived the Holocaust. And I realized as an adult that by and large, these people who had suffered the most devastating trauma that you could possibly imagine, as children who lost their entire families, kids who were in concentration camps and who were victims of Dr. Mengele and had medical experiments performed on them, and just, suffered unbelievable atrocities. They went on to live very normal, quote unquote, normal lives. They got married for the most part. They had children. They had fulfilling careers. And I started thinking, okay, so what's the other end of the spectrum? What if you have a person who lived through horrible abuse and never got past it, was always stuck in that abuse? Yeah. And so that's sort of how I created the character of Brendan, as the opposite of survivors who went on to live fulfilling lives, and Brendan, on the other hand, who is stuck, at least at the beginning of the book, until he starts his journey towards healing.
Interesting perspective. That is an interesting perspective, especially coming off the crate and talking about, going into your history and talking about Holocaust survivors and people, the Jewish people who are so resilient, are so brave, are so tough. And man, I tell you, I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I admire each and every story. I admire each and every person who tells me about their ancestors who have gone through what they've gone through to get to America, to thrive in conditions that were just wretched, that most people would fall apart in. I don't know what to say, and then you look at those individual stories, Debbie, and then you wonder, there's us in with first world problems. If my latte's not perfect, I throw a hissy fit at Starbucks, and you wonder where that comes from. So to come up with the opposite of that, someone who lives in trauma and never escapes, or someone who lives in trauma, and we know people like that, in our everyday lives. There's some of us maybe listening to the show that are stuck in trauma and never get out of it. And you wonder,
and that really was part of my motivation for writing the book, for writing The Crate, which I guess we'll talk about later. Yes, but I had a motivation to tell a story in that book. And in A Nest of Snakes, I really felt like if I told this particular story that was based on real life events, maybe it could be a catalyst for someone, for a reader who felt that they couldn't come forward. Maybe it would help them come to terms with what they'd been through, maybe help them tell their own story. Yeah.
The thing about, and again, I don't want to spoil too much about A Nest of Snakes. There's something about the human spirit, and back me on this if you will, or you don't have to if you don't want to, but there's something about the human spirit that when you start to be stomped on by trauma, the human spirit doesn't allow you to be fully caught underfoot. It wants you to rise above. So you start to see little rays of light and you start to gravitate toward it. So, when you think, I just don't know if I can get through this. I don't know if I can live through this. It's getting worse and worse and worse. You see that little ray of light and you go, you know what? I'm going to gravitate to that. And I'm going to move past it and through it. But then something reminds you. And then maybe you wallow in it a little bit. Then you go, you know what? But I see that little ray of light over here and I'm going to gravitate towards that. And maybe tomorrow's a new day. And in this book, Brendan really does do that. He starts gravitating toward the light, even though he has anchors around him. And again, leave it for the book. There are little anchors around him that try to keep him down as he's gravitating towards those bits of light, which I found it is amazingly lifelike. That is the journey that is our life. We do have certain bits of trauma that we do hang on to that are devastating. That some of us can flush it, some of us can talk it through, some of us hold on to it. But there are little bits of light we should gravitate towards. If we're not, then there's something there that we need to fix. How do you suggest we fix that, Debbie? That's my question. How do you suggest we fix
I would also add that some of us have that kernel of trauma that we don't even realize is ready to bubble up to the surface until something prompts it, until there's some sort of a triggering event, and then it all just comes bubbling up. And I think that's one of the themes of the book, the weight of memory and the weight of past events that, we try to bury, but then the things that just come up to the surface when we least expect it. And I think that was also a theme of my first book. So there were a lot of parallels between the two books, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's totally human nature to gravitate towards the light and to be hopeful and to do what we have to do to survive. And, for me personally, and for a lot of other children of survivors, I know a lot now at this point. We always say, I could never have been as strong as my parents were. I could never have survived what they did. So it's impossible to know what we would, what kind of strength we have in a situation until we're thrown into it. I don't think I could have done what my parents had to do to survive. But I also think that there's this huge element of luck, when it comes to Holocaust survivors, the people who are in these horrific conditions. A lot of it didn't matter. Their survival didn't matter on how heroic they were or how strong they were or what they chose to do at any given moment. A lot of it was just luck, who survived and who didn't. And to say that, if you make this choice as opposed to that choice, that's what led to your survival. I don't think the Nazis operated that way. No. I think it was just by the stroke of, good fortune, people survived and others didn't.
You could call it good fortune. You could call it blessings. You could call it whatever you want to call it. I think too, there does have to be I think we should give them credit where credit is due. There does have to be an enormous amount of strength to survive what the survivors went through. There does have to be a certain amount of strength. And to push forward through that, Debbie, and to get to a state of whatever we consider normal is. And to say, you know what, from here, now I have to live life and enjoy life, not just get through life, but to live it and enjoy it and then pass lessons on to the next generation that aren't tainted by that trauma, but are in spite of that trauma is a huge thing. To do a 180 on something that's that horrific that's been done to you and then make a positive of it. That's amazing.
It is amazing. And I wouldn't necessarily say that we children aren't tainted by the trauma. I think we certainly are. And in fact, there's a whole, tell me if you know about this, there's a whole branch of science. It's a burgeoning field of science called epigenetics, which really does study how trauma is passed down through the generations, how trauma can be expressed in the actual DNA of people. And I'll tell you really quickly, if you have time, about this very fascinating study that's being done by a group of researchers called the mouse and cherry blossom experiments, where the researchers took a group of adult mice and exposed them to the smell of cherry blossoms, and at the same time would give them an electric shock. So it was the pairing of this very positive stimuli, the smell of cherry blossoms, and the negative, the electric shock, which you would recognize. It's classic Pavlovian conditioning, right? They get the smell, and they think they're going to get the shock at the same time. But the researchers took this experiment a step further, and they took the offspring of the original study mice, the original study group, and these offspring, the baby mice, had never seen their parents get an electric shock, had never gotten an electric shock themselves. And yet, when they were exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms, they had the exact same reaction, the same fear response, as if they were about to get a shock as well. And so the scientists, the researchers, took that to mean that the trauma that the adult mice had been exposed to was then passed down to the next generation. And, for a child of Holocaust survivors, that really rings true, and it really explains a lot. And it's not nurture, it's nature.
Right. And don't get me wrong here, Deb. I mean, I don't think that grandchildren of Holocaust survivors should let their guard down by any means, because evil still exists in the world. We're seeing it in 2022.
We are absolutely seeing it. I'm so glad you said that.
It's alive and well. It's abhorrent. It's disgusting. It makes me want to throw up.
Terrifying.
My grandfather didn't fight in World War II to have that kind of evil exist in 2022.
Right.
I know that much.
Is absolutely terrifying, because that's exactly how the Holocaust started, with words, with the exact same words that we're hearing again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't even with, I believe you called it biocentrics, right? The science? Epigenetics, I'm sorry. With epigenetics, even with people carrying that filth of an outlook into 2022 against the Jewish people, it just, to me, it seems like that I don't know why. I don't know. I get angry and I freeze up when it comes to this topic. I don't tend to let my feelings be known a lot on the show when it comes to political issues or whatnot, but to me, this, and let's face it, this is a human rights issue. It's not a political issue. It just seems to me that there's no room for these types of prejudices in 2022 in the world. There just isn't. It just isn't.
Well, there isn't. And interestingly, I think there's no room for a lot of other prejudices.
Right, exactly. Any prejudice.
Anti-Semitism is still very much acceptable.
Right. And the fact that in 2022, we're talking about bullying in schools, and we're talking about an enhanced form of bullying when it comes to whether kids can go to school and not worry about getting shot up. I mean, I never had to worry about that in high school, about whether I was going to get shot up. You know, things like that. I mean, we've amped everything up to such a ridiculous level that there's trauma everywhere, Deb, and that's why I'm wondering what we do to de-escalate things.
I think, this is me as a writer talking, but I think we just have to keep telling the stories. We have to keep telling the stories of what can happen as cautionary tales. And that's why, it was so important for me to tell my parents' Holocaust stories in my first book, In the Crate, and to preserve them and to say, to any potential Holocaust deniers that this is what my parents went through. Here it is in black and white. You can't deny their experiences.
Yeah.
So, what else can we do besides just continuing to educate people, educate our kids, tell the stories, tell the truth?
No, you're right about that. It's that's the only way to reach somebody's humanity, is to let them feel the humanity, let them feel the experience. That's the only way you can relate to it, is just to feel the experience, to be able to relate to it, to know, to be able to feel someone else's pain and know it. Because if you can imagine yourself in that situation, then you never want to be put in that situation again.
Right.
That's exactly it.
And then to come back to A Nest of Snakes,
yes,
the incredible thing is that I'm writing this story about what happened to this kid in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. And you would think, as a reader, you might think that this kind of thing could never happen today in 2022. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked to find out, well, first of all, when I was researching the book, I found out that it wasn't by any means limited to New England. It was all over the world. You know, there were very well publicized cases from New York, from New Hampshire, Toronto, where I'm from, yep. All the way to Australia. Mm-hmm. And anywhere in the world where there are private schools operating, this kind of abuse happened and continues to happen. And just this past summer, the King and Queen of Denmark pulled their 16-year-old son, Prince Christian, out of his very prestigious private school because there were all these allegations of physical and sexual abuse.
Wow.
And the leadership turned a blind eye. And just a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you heard this, but Prince William and Kate pulled George and Charlotte out of their elite school because a teacher there pled guilty to distributing lewd child images all over the world. And it was a huge scandal. So this was just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
So, you know, we're talking about issues that still go on to this day.
You know, Debbie, I got to ask you this question too, and this may seem kind of ludicrous and maybe even a little out of bounds for this situation we're talking about. But how do you feel about some of the people who say, okay, now you talk about male on male sexual assault, and that happens in this book, but how do you feel about female teacher assault on males? And sometimes we do make a bit of a joke about it, and it does get joked about in the media. How do you feel about that? Is that along the same lines?
I mean, personally, I think abuse is abuse.
Okay.
It's not, it's not wanted. So therefore it's an assault,
right?
Whether it's a male or a female abuser, I think it should be treated exactly the same.
Okay. What do you think about cases like Mary Kay Letourneau, where you have a teacher that eventually ends up marrying her student off of a situation like that, off of a vulnerable student who maybe doesn't know the difference between love and sexual lust. And after the prison sentence is over, there ends up being a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have laws to protect children.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I think some of it is probably because of this still lingering, very macho culture that men are still supposed to be part of, which is another reason I wrote A Nest of Snakes, which is sort of, you know, a bit of a social commentary on this macho culture that we still have, where, you know, boys are supposed to be grateful and happy and proud of any kind of sexual encounter that they have, even if they are actually a victim.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's it's an interesting point, you know, that, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, if it's the opposite, if it's a male who's assaulting a female student, a male teacher assaulting a female student, it's abhorrent. It's bad. It's that teacher is getting fired. He's getting jailed. He's getting what he deserves. In a male culture, if it's a female assaulting a male, it's, well, why didn't that happen to me when I was in school? You know, and it's and it gets looked at in a different light.
That would make a good novel.
But which section do you sell it in? You know, that's the one thing that you know, that as you put it, the macho culture tends to think, well, is it really that big of a deal? You know, but it really, when you look at it, you know, nobody really takes for granted that it's the child that's being abused that doesn't know the difference between sexual attraction and love. And he's the one that's being twisted up. and it doesn't matter what the female thinks, and put her aside. It's the male student that has to deal with this for the rest of his life. And nobody really cares what happens to him. Nobody really cares.
Of course. And we have just as many female predators.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I had a chance to meet the lead investigator from the crime that I talked about in The Crate. Okay. And become friendly with him.
Okay.
And his wife happened to be a warden in the prison system. And the conversation turned to the Netflix show Orange is the New Black.
Oh,
and I said, is that what prison is really like? And she said, so she had been a warden in both the men's system and the women's system. Mm-hmm. And she said that the women were just so much worse.
Really?
That by and large, the men were pretty respectful, and the women were animals.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you suppose that is?
That I couldn't tell you. I can only refer to the mean girls I went to school with in junior high school, but I don't know. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just instilled in men to be more respectful to the female warden. I don't know. I'm just grasping here. I have no idea.
Well, now, do you think? I don't want to throw stereotypes out here, Debbie, but let me throw it out in this arena. See how it plays. We'll just put it that way. Is it because when you get to a prison system that men tend to be repeat offenders and they know what exactly they're looking at, and they know that they're not going to get any special treatment. They're not getting any special favors. They know they can't sway the administration at all, that they know there's no play when it comes to, if I act a certain way, they're going to give me a lighter sentence. If I do anything special, they're not going to do anything special for me. I just got to put my nose down, do my time, and then get out of here type of deal. Or if I'm going to be bad in here, I know I'm going to be bad and I'm going to spend the rest of my life in here. I know pretty much what I get. So they act accordingly. And do you think it is that the women think, well, if I act up, I can kind of sway my way into getting them to forget it? That like maybe I can play the emotions of the administration in here?
I keep talking. I'm loving your scenarios here. I have no idea how to answer that.
As men, again, I don't want to play the armchair psychologist here, but as men being more tending to wanting to fall to a more logical outlook on prison, it's I follow this, I do this, I'm going to either get out of here or spend the rest of my life in here. I got to either adapt or die. Okay. And I think with women, they think they have alternate possibilities, like I can go this way or that way, but I can work this scenario to my advantage. They're always thinking I can work this to my advantage. And there's more.
Are they always thinking?
I think they are. I think they think there's infinite possibilities and are more optimists than men are. I think men tend to be more pessimists. They tend to think, you know what? I've got what I've got. I'm going to do what I have to do to get out of here.
I don't know. You're talking to a diehard pessimist here. So.
Am I? Okay. I just tend to think that women tend to be more, how should I put it? Opportunistic and tend to want to play the situation to benefit themselves. So I think especially the criminal mind, the female criminal mind. So I think they would tend to want to just play things to benefit themselves.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? No? You have no, kind of? You do, but you don't. Yeah, you just don't want to say anything. I get it. I just think it's just the idea that when they get in this system, there has to be a hierarchy, as far as prisoners go. So you have to work the system in order to get in your internal hierarchy. But then on top of that, you have to have favor with the administration. So there's always a negotiation going on.
Maybe.
So
Maybe in real life, women just feel very pressured by, feel very confined by social pressures and feel um, that it's their responsibility to conform. And then when they're let loose in a prison setting where, they've already been punished and, nothing worse is going to happen at this point, they're just, free to let this whole animalistic side of them appear.
That could be as well. That could be as well. Yeah, they're.
I don't know.
Let the chains off them. Let them go. Yeah, that could be too. There's many reasons why it could be that way. I don't know, but I think when and maybe you're right. Maybe men tend to be more footloose and fancy free on the outside because they feel like they don't have restraints, and once you put them in restraints, they know that there's nowhere to go, and they're a bit more submissive. That could be too. I mean, maybe you're more on track with this than I am. That may be the case, Debbie. So let's talk a little bit more before our time is up here about a nest of snakes. I want to focus a little bit about bullying. You brought bullying between students into this book as well. I want to ask you something about bullying, because the bullying that happens in this era of the early 80s is really more the type of bullying that I was used to, the kind of bullying I got. Tell me, the type of bullying we see now, we covered it a little bit earlier in the show. We were talking about shootings that tend to happen. It tends to go from 0 to 10 very quickly these days. It escalates very quickly. Tell me why do you think kids these days, and especially it tends to be more cyberbullying these days. There's a lot of cyberbullying. There's not a lot of things happening in person because you can't exactly punch somebody in the mouth and have it be over with. I think school officials grab onto that stuff and they act more quickly than not these days with bullying. But tell me why you think most bullying...
They're expected to anyway.
They're expected to, yes. Tell me why bullying is easier these days than it used to be.
Well, like you said, it's our telephones, it's our cell phones and social media that are the platforms for bullying. But I actually did some research into statistics before I wrote and for when I do, my speaking gigs. And statistics up until 2019 showed that the kind of bullying that I portrayed in A Nest of Snakes still happens, and just to an unbelievable extent. Even now, something like 45% of kids say that they've been bullied, physically assaulted, and it happens in schools, it happens outside on school property. And all of that is aside from cyberbullying. And when I wrote about it in A Nest of Snakes, so I was definitely thinking back to the 80s and my experience in school and, using my imagination as well. But I really wanted to lay the groundwork, again, set up the circumstances where a kid who was experiencing bullying would be that much more vulnerable to predators, sexual predators at the school. And again, another social issue to shine a light on in the book. Mm-hmm. So, and of course, back then, kids weren't coming to school with guns.
Yeah.
Automatic assault rifles and everything else. But yeah, it still really is a huge issue that we have to deal with as much as the other issues that I talk about in the book.
Do you feel like bullying is, how should I put this? That bullying is actually something that is left to the devices of children? I mean, because it seems like we carry it into adulthood pretty well, that, we take it into the business world pretty well, and then we wrap it up in a nice verbal package and call it business. Or is it just something that really just exists in the animal kingdom in general, and we we like to think that we're a more civilized lot and that we shouldn't be doing it as humans. Is it really something that's just inbred in all of us, and maybe we're a little too sensitive to it?
No, I don't think we're too sensitive to it. And I don't think children should be left to their own devices. I think adults have to intervene.
Okay.
And I think then we're kind of opening the door to the discussion on mental health.
Okay.
Because, so that's a whole separate conversation.
Right. No, I hear you.
But yeah, no, I think adults absolutely have to intervene. And I think there are a lot of people who don't carry it into their adulthood that well, are not that easily. They haven't made their peace with it that easily. But they're, especially for, I keep coming back to middle school because those were tough years, the junior high school years, boys and girls. And, but yeah, I mean, you also talk about the business world. So absolutely, it's it's around us everywhere. Yeah,
it really does translate from middle school years to the business world. I mean, the financial world is probably the best example of it, but the financial world kind of takes their cues from middle school bullying and then calls it, it is what it is in the interest of financial facts. You kind of went into a little bit of what the crate was all about, but tell us a little bit in closing about what the crate was, the synopsis of what the crate is all about, so our audience can go out and check that out as well.
Well, Tim, the crate was a really crazy story. In a nutshell, it was about a phone call that I got a few years ago from my brother telling me that he had discovered this wooden crate that was nailed really tightly shut and shoved up underneath the floor of our family lake house in Canada. And when that crate was opened, it was the most grisly thing that you could ever imagine. And it was obviously a body, a dismembered body at that, and fresh, not bones. And so this discovery really rocked my family. Here I was with 3 fairly young children who I wanted to protect from the violence of the whole situation. My husband and I were totally freaked out. My brother became the primary murder suspect in an investigation. And my parents, who were already in their 80s at that point, they were traumatized because, as I said, they survived the Holocaust. They thought that they had put all the violence and the evil behind them, that they had come to North America and would be safe and would start this very serene new life, and had built themselves this very charming little cottage in the woods north of Toronto. And it was their refuge, and it was the one place where they felt safest. And so to have this crime happen right on their doorstep was just traumatic for them. And it dredged up all the memories of everything that they had experienced. So, and I was really caught up in my own head when the whole thing happened. It was in all the media. It felt like a huge violation. And it took me a while. It took me actually until we got autopsy results showing us that it was a young mother who had been murdered. It was at that point that I started thinking, okay, she's the real victim in this, and her poor family. I mean, it was such a tragedy, and her family was grieving. And I started to think, okay, maybe I can tell the story of this victim and give her a voice.
Yeah.
Because she no longer had a voice to tell her own story.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I would tell my parents' Holocaust stories. And I felt very strongly about telling all of those stories in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Deborah Levison, both books are available right now. We'll have links to both of them in the description of this show. A Nest of Snakes is the current book that's out there right now. Again, Monster Librarian hails A Nest of Snakes as one of the fall's most talked about novels. I'll tell you this much. I had a very enjoyable read this past weekend as I sat down and read about Brendan and his not so enjoyable time at Torburton. I believe it's Torburton Prep High. But I'll tell you this much. It's got some surprise twists at the end, which I'm not going to give away. I'm going to tell you, go get the book. So that's what you should do. It's put out by Wild Blue Press. The description is in the the link is in the description of this program. Also, go to Deborah's site, www.debbielevison.com to know more about her. We'll have that link there as well, so you can get to know her as well. So, Debbie,
I'm so glad you liked it. I'm so glad that you enjoyed reading.
And by the way, before we leave here today, folks, we're not going to give out Debbie's husband's email address or anything, but just give a silent shame to her husband, who, by the way, I got to tell you, folks, in between the commercial breaks of the Vikings-Jets game, I sat and I would read Debbie's book. And I told her this before the show, that I would read, a page or two, because I was really enthralled with the book. And I was getting through the book, and I'm like, I don't want to put it down. Turns out, how far has your husband got on the book, Debbie?
Maybe halfway.
Shame.
But if the book was that absorbing, then you would have forgotten all about the Vikings, and you would have read right through the whole game.
I can't forget about my 10-2 Vikings. I just can't. It's some of our fans think we're going all the way. I don't. I think we're one and done in the playoffs, Deb. But you know what? I have to remain true to my number one in the NFC North, Vikings. So. Ultimately, my first love, my second love this weekend was A Nest of Snakes. How do you like that? You made the top 5.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So that's the best I could do. I'm sorry, Debbie. It's the best I could do.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for reading.
That's the biggest compliment I could give you today. That's the biggest compliment I've given anybody today. So there you go. A Nest of Snakes is out there right now from Wild Blue Press. Go out and get it, folks. We'd appreciate it if you did. It's time now for us to switch gears. We're going to bring in Beer City Bruiser. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time once again, the time y'all look forward to here on True Crime Tuesday. It's time for Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals. And he's back, ladies and gentlemen, fresh off the road from North Carolina and WrestleCade. He's the BCB, the big cuddly bear, the one you've all been looking forward to, the co-host with the most, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing, Bruiser?
Oh, I'm doing great, Tim. Even though it's been a week, it feels so much longer.
It has.
So much longer. I didn't know how therapeutic this was, and it is. It's therapeutic talking to you every week and talking to our listeners, and I missed it.
Oh, well, we missed you. We definitely missed you.
I felt missed. It was not that Mally doesn't do her job. She did a great job. I listen to the shows, as I always do, and it was fun to hear something new. Yeah. And then we also got the word out about the show at WrestleCade. So hopefully some new listeners are listening to us right now. That'd be real nice. Yeah,
and thank you for doing so, my friend. Thank you for doing so. Yeah, we had a good time with Mally, and we appreciated her being with us. And she dropped a little something in the mail for our Millionaires Club one in a million prize pack winner, Stacy. So we're getting everything assembled here to get it out to Stacy, and we've got appreciation winners as well that we're getting stuff out to here. It'll be out relatively shortly. It may be a little after Christmas, just so we're letting people know, because we're getting things together, and with the mail rush with the holidays, everything's being custom done here. So.
Yeah, and it is that time of season, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunately we have a little bit of a rush on the post office, so that's how. And supply chain issues, and plus,
of course,
my elves are just me. I don't know. So there you go. That's how it shakes down.
You want me to talk to some of the little wrestlers and send them your way?
Well, if you can, yeah, that'd be nice. I'd like to have a little bit of help. Get a little bit of help around the old Darkness Radio studios. Sure. Yeah, if you would. I pay literally just a little bit, if you know what I mean. So it might be a little kibble in their bowl and maybe a beer or two.
Some eggnog. Do some
eggnog.
Yeah, eggnog. It's the season. Yeah, but you got to do the right kind with the liquor in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I didn't know about that when I was a kid. We always had 2 bowls of eggnog when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I always got served from the kid one until one day I decided I'm going to take the other one.
Now,
that put some hair on my butt. Let me just tell you that.
That's true. It'll knock you on your behind. Now I got to ask you, was it the same eggnog, just one had liquor and one didn't? Or was it the Tom and Jerry mix with the eggnog and then the kiddie nog?
Oh, I honestly don't know. I just know that it had the children one and the adult one. And the adult one, whew, woke you up.
You might have to ask Papa Bruiser that question. I have a feeling he was in charge of the mix.
It was actually my grandfather that did, because my parents didn't drink at that time. My dad actually quit drugs, alcohol, smoking, the whole 9 when my mom got pregnant with me. He went cold turkey and all.
Really?
Because he was kind of a mess up as a youth. And when Mama Bruiser got pregnant with me, Papa Bruiser's like, I got to straighten my life out.
Oh, good for him.
So he didn't really drink, but my grandparents always had. Everyone else did. So my grandfather was the one that always made it. Huh. And when he passed, it was weird because he had that Christmas after he passed where there was only the one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Until somebody noticed, hey, wait a minute. We only have 1 bowl of regular eggnog.
Just the nog, huh? So, yeah. Interesting. See, for years and years, we had just the non-alcoholic eggnog. Mm-hmm. But then the Tom and Jerry mix came back, and it kind of took a break and came back and took a break. And I brought it back. I was the one who brought it back. And my entire family looked at me and said, why do we drink this shit anyways? And I was like, well, I thought it was kind of nice, we had it when we were younger and everybody went, yeah. And then we all went, why do we drink this shit anyways? And it went away. So, okay, fine. If you all don't appreciate it, then fine. I enjoyed it. But,
I do too.
Yeah. But evidently the majority rules. So I think I'm out on this deal. But if you take what's really good is if you take the Southern Comfort pre-made stuff, the pre-made eggnog. Okay. And they have the different flavors. Okay. And if you do pre-mix either with the Southern Comfort or with a different alcohol, it's really, really good.
We always did it was always Southern Comfort in there. Yeah. Because it was sweeter.
Yep. Yeah, it's a sweeter liqueur. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because my father-in-law, before he passed, he was a big Pepsi and Southern Comfort guy.
Oh boy, that'll put you back. Southern Comfort and Mountain Dew was a big one when we were in college.
Oh, actually, I'm getting corrected by Mrs. Bruiser. It was Mountain Dew.
Yes.
Diet Mountain Dew and Southern, because he was diabetic.
Yeah, yeah. Southern Comfort Mountain Dew, regular Mountain Dew will get you up to around a 600 on the old blood sugar scale if you knock a couple back. So yeah, tell Mrs. Bruiser.
Everyone wonders why you and I have health problems.
Well, there's a reason why the old foot is barely hanging on. That goes back to my early days, Bruiser. That's I have fond memories of that in college. The drink's so sweet it makes your lips go. That's
makes
what that
good old butt pucker and the mouth pucker.
That's right. You get a pucker on both ends, and it's not a sour one at that. So interesting holiday tales, and otherwise. That does bring me back to the Bell's Bar in Winona story, which has been told on this program before, but in just brief recap, I got to tip my hat again to Roy Bells, who's probably passed away years ago. He owned a bar on the east side of Winona. It was right by the railroad tracks. Roy Bells was, let's just say his prescription glasses could probably burn ants at 1,000,000 miles away. And he probably had cataracts and God knows what else was going on with his eyes. He couldn't see 3 feet away from him.
He was Mr. Magoo, huh?
He was Mr. Magoo. And any kid who was at least 18, maybe 17, they could be 16 for all I know, who looked like they had a little bit of peach fuzz on their face, could walk in and just barely flash your ID in front of Roy and could get served. I mean, it was a notorious underage bar in the time I went. I'm not going to even say what year, down in Winona State. I went to Winona State University. You could go to St. Mary's. You could go wherever you were going, the technical college, wherever. Down in Winona, you could go over to Bell's Bar. and Roy Bells would serve you.
Yeah.
Except for our friend Teddy.
Why? What was wrong with Teddy? Was he?
I don't know.
Was he just the baby face of the group?
Well, he had a bit of a baby face, but he was a farm kid. And Teddy actually looked older than what he was. Now, when we walked into Bell's Bar, keep in mind, I'm 18 at the time. A few other guys that are with us are, 18, 19 at the time. We're definitely underage. Okay.
Right.
But we decided we'll try it anyways. We were with one guy who was 21. Okay. So we walk into Bell's Bar. I'm admitting to a crime well afterwards. I think the statute of limitations is over. I'm pretty sure. So we walk in and Roy goes, "Hey, fellas." We're like, "Hey, Roy." It's like the South Park kids. "Hey, Roy." And we walk in and walk up to the bar and, we belly up and he goes, "What do you guys want?" And of course, I have no idea. I've never ordered at a bar before.
Oh, exactly.
I order a Tom Collins.
How old are you?
Right. I'm 18 going on 75 and I order a Tom Collins. Tom Collins, who orders a Tom Collins? Yeah, you can order anything. But what if I order Sex on the Beach, he's going to tell me there's grape soda in the fridge, right?
Yeah.
So, I order a Tom Collins, which starts the other underage geeks at the bar ordering Tom Collinses, right? Because we all don't know what to order. I go, I have a Tom Collins, because I thought that sounded a grown up. It was either that, a Manhattan, or an old fashioned. I didn't know which one to go with, right?
So yeah, you are 70 years old, but okay.
70 years old. So I go, I'll have a Tom Collins. He goes, all right. And he goes, what do you want? Points to the other guys and they all order Tom Collinses except for one guy orders a draft beer. Okay. Then he looks at Teddy and goes, you're not of age. There's grape soda in the fridge. Teddy looked at least 6 years older than I looked. So we always just looked at Teddy and said, there's grape soda in the fridge. So
my first underage ordering at a bar, me and my buddies only experienced bars from TV. So we belly up to the bar and the bartender comes over and, what do you guys want? We all just say, a beer. And he goes, okay. What kind? We're like, a beer. Because in the movies.
Yeah, a beer. That's all they're ordering. Did you happen to look over at the handles to see which beer was there, or did you cheat, or did you just say a beer?
My buddy out of the blue just says High Life because that's what his dad would drink.
Okay.
But then the bartender threw at us tap or bottle.
Oh, Jesus. You had to go that route.
Yeah, and we're all like, tap. And then he threw at us 16 or 30, he had to have known we were underage.
Yeah. He's putting you through the big quiz now. Yeah.
But we got our beers, our lives, because we were 60 years old too.
That's right, yeah. We'll go with the high life. We'll, yeah. They know, don't they? They have a sixth sense, but they're just testing you.
Yeah, that's why my kids, now that they're all of drinking age and stuff, they've been around, obviously, beer their whole lives. Mm-hmm. They know how when they go into bars. And I asked them out there, I'm like, okay, you guys, you're in college. My son was in the Army. He was 19, 20. Oh, of course we went into bars. I'm like, all right, did you do the classic order something you don't know what it is? And they're like, no, we've seen you order enough. We knew what to do. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah, the first thing I ever ordered was a Tom Collins. I have no idea where that came from. I think because I was a Dark Shadows fan, I thought Barnaby Collins, Tom Collins, close enough. I don't know.
I thought just because you're up there in Minnesota and you went to all the polkas and stuff, and that's what they drink at the polkas.
That's true. They do. Yeah, at the big polka celebrations, you get the Tom Collins, I don't know. I don't know where Tom Collins came from. That was just, I was trying to think of the oldest drink I could think of to throw off old Roy Bells.
Well, you threw him off.
I did.
Thought you were 70.
Then I was drinking.
What time you got to get back to the home there, Timmy?
That's right. You got to be back for early bird dinner. It threw off old Roy Bells, but it threw me off too. I learned to drink shitty Tom Collinses in Winona. That was my big deal. Today's Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals, we're going to open it up semi-serious, and then we're going to get into the funny. Bruiser, we actually do have a set of stories today that is going to focus on the police in a good way and a bad way. We do have some criminals who went shopping with the police this week.
Okay.
We want to thank you. By the way, people are sending in more and more dumb crime, stupid criminal stories. You can do that by dropping me the story at tim@darknessradio.com. There are quite a few people, just besides Tom, who sent in stories this week. We want to thank you so much for doing that. A suspect tried to go shopping at a Walmart, which was filled with deputies this week. So we've got that story for you this week. Yes, the story is true. I had a lot of you who emailed me last week and said, is this story about San Francisco unleashing robot cops on the population true? It is. We'll tell you about it today and tomorrow. It's a twofer story.
Yeah, I read that and right away when I hope Tim covers this.
Yeah.
So if you weren't, I was going to send it to you.
We'll talk about that. People are swinging on each other. We've got a whole section of stories of people swinging on each other this week.
Not the good swinging, the bad swinging. Huh?
Right. And a Tampa police chief has gone to the other side trying to get out of a ticket, riding around on their golf cart and getting arrested on it. It's golf cart shenanigans again this week, Bruiser. So let's get to it, shall we? We'll start off with something that we talked with our guest, Deborah Levison, about in the first segment. You know, her book, A Nest of Snakes, has to do with sexual abuse and other types of abuse, bullying and whatnot, in a preparatory school up in Connecticut. We go to Georgia, where a school administrator is accused of sex with a student and providing booze to minors. We flipped the script a little bit on Debbie and asked her what she thought of female on male sexual abuse and how we kind of give it the old attaboy sometimes. And we're guilty of doing that sometimes on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in Florida, where it seems like that's just a marriage proposal. A veteran Georgia school administrator had a sexual relationship with a student and provided booze for underage kids at a Halloween party, authorities allege.
Okay.
It got a little out of control, Bruiser.
Yeah, you don't do that.
No. 43-year-old Rochelle Louise Terry, who probably knew better, was arrested on multiple charges, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. This was announced last week. The probe of Terry, who's been with the Murray County School District for more than 20 years, began November 9th, when the superintendent contacted the sheriff's office about the alcohol-fueled party with underage kids, this according to the Dalton Daily Citizen. I believe there had been a parental complaint, Murray County Sheriff Jimmy Davenport told the newspaper. Terry faces 1 count of statutory rape, 2 of child molestation, and 10 of furnishing alcohol to minors during the Halloween party. As of Sunday afternoon, Terry remained in custody at the county jail. That, according to the sheriff's office. Terry had been placed on paid administrative leave, the school system told Fox Chattanooga. A school spokesperson told the outlet the district was shocked and saddened about the criminal charges. They are extremely serious charges, the spokesperson said. The safety and well-being of our students are always a top priority for the Murray County School. Terry earns $110,000 a year and is a director of federal programs, according to the Dalton Daily Citizen. The sheriff's office turned the probe over to the Conasauga District Attorney's Office, since the sheriff's office provides safety officers to the school system, so conflict of interest.
Exactly.
Once the DA's office unearthed a possible alleged sexual relationship between Terry and a student, the office on November 23rd requested the GBI get involved, and the probe is ongoing. Now, one of the things that we had talked to Debbie about was the fact that these female on male rapes, we'll call it what it is, statutory rapes, aren't taken very seriously. It seems like in this case it is being taken seriously.
Yeah, I think it's joked about among our generation because we never had attractive teachers when we were in school. Like all our teachers were the 80-year-old nuns, you know. Mm-hmm. But like you can go back to the what was the girl that had the student? She had his baby. She just passed away.
Mary Kay Letourneau.
Yes.
Yep.
And remember when that all came about, you know, she was, you know, chastised because that was just wrong. And her problem was she just couldn't stay away from him. You know, she kept going back to him.
Well, not only that, but she really And we talked, Debbie and I talked a little bit about that. She really twisted that boy's mind.
Oh, yeah.
There's a difference between lust and love. And she twisted what probably was a lustful relationship on both ends into what made the boy think he was in love with her. And clearly, I think as he got older, he might have tried to separate a little bit between he and Mary Kay. She was the one who kept pursuing him. And at one point, enough is enough. But once he's an adult, you can't tell Mary Kay Letourneau, well, no, he's made his decision. He's backed away. Go ahead.
When you look at like situations like this too with this girl, you know, teenage boys, hormones are going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if something blows on it, it gets hard. You know what I mean? Like if the wind blows in the right direction, the boy's excited. Mm-hmm. And I think predators like this, and she is a predator, uses that to their advantage. You know?
And it's a different type of vulnerability. And you know, whereas I think with females, when you have male teachers that prey on a female's feelings and vulnerabilities, it is it's an icky predatory.
Well, they're both predatory. Right.
You know what
I mean? One's just
right.
I see what you're saying. One's different because it's using feelings and emotions, where the other one is just pure lust.
Yeah, is using it's. I think what I meant to say and where I was going with this is people tend to lighten up the male victim because it isn't necessarily based on what they see as feelings. Mm. With a girl, it's looked at as a total raping of one's emotions, body, spirit, because they've messed with everything, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
And taken that away from a female. When it's a male, I think we tend to, as Debbie put it so eloquently, as a macho society, we tend to go, oh gosh, we wish I would have had that one as a kid. Yeah. Because as guys, when we're running around as teenagers, we are full of hormones and we're like, you know, oh gosh, I'd love to, you know, and we are kind of thinking, you know, with the lower appendage. But at the same time, we're wanting it to be our choice, and we're not thinking of it of necessarily being preyed upon based on our urges. And
I knew a guy in college that was raped by a female.
Okay.
And it took him basically screaming to the moon to convince people that he was raped.
Right.
Because his whole thing is he was saving himself for marriage. Is what he wanted to do.
Right.
And he had said no multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, but she did. Mm-hmm. You know, they ended up having sex. And like you're saying, because of the machismo society, the police didn't believe him because he was male. Like, what male wouldn't want that woman's throwing themselves at you? Why wouldn't you want that? And he had to explain to himself because of his faith. He was waiting. You know, he wanted to save himself for marriage.
Yeah.
So if that's not, because that's not only raping in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense too, because he was so strong in his faith.
Right. Right.
And whether what you believe in your faith or not, but his faith, you know, and I remember that was my first time ever being exposed to, holy cow, this can happen to men. Mm-hmm. Because we're raised, like you just said, like, no, men can't do that. You know, it's that very machismo thinking.
Yeah.
And you and I joke about it on here too. Like, oh, I wish we had teachers that age, you know, like that when we were in school. But the bottom line is it's still taking advantage of these young men.
Because really in the macho society, sex is looked at as a coming of age type of thing for a male. It's just, oh yeah, your voice deepens, you get muscles, you go out and have a good time. That's how it's looked at for males. And it's a double standard. It's a double, you know.
How many 1980 movies are based on, we can't go to college as virgins, you know, we have to lose our virginity, you know.
Yep, exactly. And you nailed it right there. So, you know, it is, you know, it's hard for us to believe that, well, there's no way a male could be raped because, well, you know, that just, what are you taking? What do you think you're taking? Because, you know, eventually the kid's going to do it anyways. Well, that's not the right line of thinking, because, again, it is that male's choice.
Do they say in the story how it got out that she was the one that funded this party with the alcohol and the sex and stuff? Because
it was there.
I think it's because the boys themselves aren't reporting it. It's usually the parents that are reporting it.
It was a parental complaint. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we don't know if the boys complained to the parent, this is what's been happening. You know what I mean? We just, because the report only says, oh, the parents brought this to the school's attention.
Right. It was a parental complaint. So it could have been the boy went to the parents. You never know. Or the parents found out in some other way.
Because you always hear when it's a male on female and it's the parents reporting, it's because the female had said something to the parents. They always report that. But if you notice, when they report female on male this instance, oh, the parents responded, but they never say how the parents found out. Like, it could be the males going, hey, this is what happened. Yeah. We know it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a scenario that again, like in the first part of the program, you'll hear Debbie and I talking about it. It's harder for, I think, teenage boys to come forward and say, and be believed. I shouldn't say to come forward and admit it. It's harder for them to come forward and be believed, I believe, because there's a lot of doubt there. There's a lot of doubt that, you know, it wasn't something that they had egged on or asked for and received, or maybe there's sour grapes there, or they get questioned a lot as to whether, you know, the scenario is accurate or not.
And teenage boys necessarily aren't the best support group for each other. Like, right. I don't know about your friend group. My friend group, we used to just always rag on each other and make fun of each other. And, you know, that's how we show we were friends.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, for instance, the gentleman that came forward in college and said he was raped, none of us believed him at first. We were all just joking around because, but then once we saw how much it affected him, you kind of turn that corner like, oh, wait a minute, this is serious.
Yeah.
You know, but high school boys, I mean, we're high school boys. Like, your buddy stubs his toe, you know, you never let him forget he stubbed his toe. You know, if he gets pants in the cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
As traumatizing as it is, we never let him forget he got pants in the cafeteria.
Right. Yep. Let's move on. You know, there's a weird story out there, and there's a weird edict out there that nobody ever dies in Disneyland or Disney World. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
The idea is if somebody is injured in Disneyland or Disney World, Disney officials will move that person off the property so that their cause of death or listing of death or the address where they died never reads that it happened in Disney.
Really? I didn't know this. Yeah. I thought Disney World and Disneyland had their own morgue.
Well, not technically, no, but it's almost never put on the coroner's either on the coroner's inquest or on the death certificate that the place of death happened at Disney. Reason being is it's supposed to be the happiest place on earth.
True. Okay?
Now, again, serious story, folks, before we jump into the funny. A man actually jumped to his death at Disneyland. It just happened over the weekend. He was also the principal, or was a principal, accused of child endangerment.
Oh.
Again, I bring this up because of the book that we had just talked about, A Nest of Snakes, in the first part of the segment. A man who jumped to his death at Disneyland was a school principal due in court on Monday on child endangerment and battery charges, which he blasted in the social media suicide note.
Okay.
So he basically went online, said, not true, and then killed himself. The jumper was identified by authorities as 51-year-old Christopher Christensen, who had been the principal of Huntington Beach Elementary Schools for 22 years.
Okay.
Court records show that he was due in court for a pretrial conference hearing Monday for the two misdemeanor charges, which he directly blamed for his suicide in a lengthy Facebook page, or post rather, just before he leaped from the Mickey and Friends parking garage. which is on Disneyland property.
Yeah, and it's not like they can just move the body and say he jumped from somewhere else.
Right. He says, I hate when people leave this earth with so many unanswered questions. So I hope this provides some insight and perspective. The proud one-time administrator of the year told his Facebook friends in a calm tone. In the note, he introduced friends to my wife, Marlena, writing, yes, you heard me correctly. Most of you don't know this, but we privately married 3.5 years ago. Marlena and I love and adore each other, and our relationship has been amazing up until recently, he wrote, alongside photos of them on their wedding day. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, she and I got into a heated argument at home in front of the girls, he explained, admitting that tempers were flared and strong words were exchanged. However, never in this exchange did I hit, slap, or hurt Marlena in any manner, nor did I ever touch the girls. I never have and never will, he stressed, saying that he loved the girls like my own. Unfortunately, Marlena's anger got the best of her that night, and she called the police, which landed me in jail that night. Yes, me, a man who has never hit or harmed anyone in his life, he went on to write. He claimed that his secret wife truly regrets making that call because of the events of that night, and that they have completely unraveled both their lives. I'm on the brink of losing my job as I am out on administrative leave until my case is quote-unquote resolved, he wrote of the case, which court records show he pleaded not guilty to in his November 22nd arraignment. My wife knows I would never hurt her or the girls and has been trying to clear my name with little success, he wrote. However, the legal system is extremely flawed, especially against men and fathers. And it's sickening how quickly and easily an innocent man can be thrown in jail based on zero evidence or proof, he seethed. So here I am, writing my final Facebook post to all of you, he wrote. I need you all to know that a gentle, kind, loving, sincere, good man has been destroyed by one unfortunate night. It really is unfortunate. This is not me, he wrote. This is not something that I ever thought would happen to me. His sign-off included a touching tribute to the past 21-plus years during which he truly loved educating and leading thousands of students and families as principal in the Fountain Valley School District. Please remember me for all the good I brought to the world of education, he pleaded, while also thanking fellow musicians who had performed alongside him over the past 30 years. There's so much more I want to say, but I'm going to spend the rest of today reaching out to those closest to me, he said, to let them know how much I love them, he wrote. This is not an ideal way to go out, but at least I get a chance to say some final words to those who I love and adore, said Christensen, who had 3 adult children from a previous relationship, as well as 3 stepchildren, according to the LA Daily News. Take care, everyone. Please, please, please be kind to one another. Treat each other with kindness and grace, he wrote. There's too much anger in the world, and people need to start treating each other better. What I've shared with you above is a prime example of how anger can really have long-lasting and extremely damaging effects on a person's life. He ended the tragic note with that passage. Orange County Superior Court records do not detail the exact allegations against Christensen. The alleged acts happened on November 15th, and Christensen posted $10,000 bond and was released on November 17th. He then pleaded not guilty to child endangerment and battery during his arraignment on November 22nd. Before his death, he had been principal at, I believe this is Corrigus Elementary School, for more than 11 years. According to his LinkedIn, our hearts are so broken. We love you, Mr. C, and we miss you immensely, the school PTA wrote early Monday.
It's sad, but he should have, if he's innocent, like he says he was, he should have went through the court system, especially if the person that brought up the accusation against him is on his side. That's why we have the court system. And he's right, it's biased at first against men and fathers and whatnot, but that's at first. Once you go through the system and you show your proof of innocence, you know, it can be forgotten. He'd get his job back, everything, you know.
Yeah.
You'd still have that stigma around you, but if you're found innocent, you know, right. And suicide is a real thing. And if you're struggling out there, please speak to somebody, because it's suicide you think helps, but it doesn't, because you're leaving so many people behind.
Right.
And I get what he's saying. He's leaving this note so no one has any questions, but there's still questions. you know, his 3 adult children, his 3 stepchildren are still going to have questions.
Oh, yes.
His wife is still going to have questions. Why did he go to that extreme if he was innocent?
Right.
You know, and I know in the time, you know, depression is a serious thing. We've all experienced it, I myself, and thoughts of suicide, you think, okay, this is going to solve everything, but it doesn't. It actually makes it worse.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're having suicidal thoughts out there, please get help. Call somebody, call a friend, call a child, call your significant other, call your spouse, call your children, call your best friend, call me, call Tim, call somebody and talk about it. If
you have nowhere to turn to, again, the 24/7 National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255, or you can go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Again, there's somebody out there who cares about you and will help you. There's no
bad days. Bad days come to an end, and that's what this guy was having. He was having bad days because he was accused of something.
Yeah.
Go through the trial. Go through the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prove yourself innocent.
Right. That's right. Let's turn that page, Bruiser. Let's lighten it up here. Let's get into the dumb crimes and stupid criminals and get into some of the funny. You go shopping. You're out there at Walmart and you're a bad guy and you want to get some bad stuff at a good deal. Where do you go? You go to Walmart because it's easy to get stuff, right? On the cheap.
It's super easy.
Yeah. You just get one of them carts and you fill it up and then you drive away, evidently, is the way they're doing it now.
But you got to be drunk while you do it.
Right. Yeah. You got to have a few cocktails beforehand. There's a guy named Brad who decided he was going to actually, it says Bad News Brad here, evidently is his name. I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you, Brad. This suspect tried to steal from Walmart, but he found the store was filled with deputies the day he went.
That's the wrong time to go.
That's right. We go to St. Cloud, Florida, where a Florida man is facing charges after deputies said he picked the wrong time and place to commit a crime. Now, what is the ultimate nightmare of a criminal, Bruiser? When you walk into Walmart, it would be probably finding a store full of deputies, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. So, I'm going to commit this crime. Here we go. Oh, no.
So why would you continue to steal once you saw a store full of deputies?
Why wouldn't you go to a different Walmart where you know all the deputies aren't there and they're all in one location?
Right.
And you could probably get away with it easier.
Probably. The Osceola County Sheriff's Office said in a news release that a suspect attempted to steal from the Walmart in St. Cloud, but was thwarted upon finding the store filled with officers. Deputies said the suspect had gone into the store during an annual Shop with a Cop event.
Which is advertised everywhere. So you could have been like, okay, well, let's see. I need to rob something on the 5th. Oh, they got the Shop with the Cop event at this one. Okay, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to go to Target that day, not Walmart.
And it's for community children. And that nearly 40 deputies, Bruiser, 40 of them, 40, along with a forensics team, community service team, and Sheriff Marcos Lopez were inside the store.
He literally could have gone to any other store within that county and stolen everything.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been fine.
Yep. Deputies did not identify the suspect other than by the name Brad, saying, "Bad news, Brad."
Brad Dumbass. That's his name.
That's right. Bad news, Brad. A photo of the suspect shows him in handcuffs. It's quite the funny photo, to be honest with you. Police say they confiscated bolt cutters and gloves from him as well. Who walks into Walmart with bolt cutters and gloves?
Yeah, you can just get it at Walmart.
Exactly.
You're stealing anyways.
Walk back to hardware and pick it up and then go get what you need. What were you going to steal? Razors?
This guy does not know how to be a criminal.
He's ill-equipped. I mean, let me show, just for Bruiser's benefit, I'm going to show him a picture of Bad News Brad.
Oh yeah.
There he is. He's a winner.
Yeah. He serves our public well.
Yeah, I think he's probably hopped up on the meth, as the kids say.
He's got the meth for sure.
Yeah. Nice Jinko jeans, probably goes back to 1994. So I think he's caught up on his style.
I like the fact he's only had one sock on.
Yeah, he did only have one sock on. So He was in a hurry. He had to get down there in time to say hi to the cops, see if they'd shop with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like, hey, I'm robbing this place. Can you show me the good spots? Like, where are the cameras not pointing? Show me.
Yeah. Show me where I won't get in trouble if I rip off a whole cart full of stuff.
That'd be one of those moments if I'm the criminal. I go, gonna rob Walmart, walk in and go, oh, look at all these police. Not gonna rob Walmart today.
Yeah. Gonna do it tomorrow and there's less police around. So this is the most emailed story of the past week and a half. Yes, folks, lethal police robots are one step closer to reality in San Francisco. I figure we could use this on True Crime Tuesday just once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's true. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted in favor of allowing the police to deploy robots capable of using lethal force.
Oh, of course, because, you can reason with them.
Yeah. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted in favor of allowing the police to deploy robots capable of using lethal force. After a fiery debate, the proposal easily passed an 8-3 vote.
So those are definitely 8 people that have, I'm not even going to say Terminator. They've never seen Terminator. They've never seen RoboCop.
Right.
There's a reason that the Ed 409 whatever creature was never brought to light because it murdered everybody.
Yeah. Well, the San Francisco Police Department currently has 17 robots that can be equipped to use lethal force. Good luck to you in San Fran. However, officials say they don't plan to give robots guns. No, they'll just crush your skull.
Yeah. We'll give them hyper boosters and knives.
Yeah. Instead, they plan to outfit them with explosives that can be used to breach buildings or contact, incapacitate, or disorient a potentially dangerous suspect. Oh, they've got explosives, Bruiser. That explains everything.
Yeah. Guess where I'm not going on vacation?
San Francisco. When I used to watch as a youngster, the streets of San Francisco, I never imagined you'd have to flee because there were bombs.
They never covered this on Full House.
Yeah, right? Never saw
You didn't see Danny get blown up by RoboCop.
Never saw Uncle Jesse having the wheels taken out by bombs of his car, that is. That sweet, sweet convertible they all rode in the beginning of the show. Officials said the robots would only be used when the risk of loss of life to members of the public or officers is imminent, which is every call.
Yeah.
And officers cannot subdue the threat after using alternative force options or de-escalation tactics. Supervisor Dean Preston, who was one of the 3 people to vote no, one of the only voices of reason, voiced concerns that the robots could be misused. No shit, Sherlock. There is serious potential for misuse and abuse of this military-grade technology and zero showing of necessity, he said during the meeting. Second vote on the policy will be held next week. If it passes again, it will head to the desk of San Francisco Mayor London Breed, who has voiced support for allowing police to use lethal robots.
I can see it now. A year from now, we're going to have an article about in San Francisco, person killed because they locked themselves out of the house and the robot decided to blow up the house.
Must get in the door, must get in the door, must get in the door, use lethal force. The mayor's office was quoted as saying the mayor supports policies that allow police officers to quickly and safely respond to situations that involve a risk of violence to the public. And this includes tools such as live video or robotics technology. These tools should be available to peace officers to employ to save lives because explosives save a lot of lives.
Oh, yeah. That's why we, have bomb disarming robots.
Yeah.
Not bomb armed robots.
But sometimes if you see those robots coming at you, Bruiser, and they've got explosives and it looks like they're going to deploy them, hockey fans everywhere have a suggestion for you.
What's that?
Just knock yourself the fuck out.
Oh, I've heard this. I think I know where you're going with this one. This is the fight one, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Oh, this is I heard this and right away I thought I hope Tim covers this because this is true hockey fans. This is hockey fandom to a T. I've been to hockey games, and this is true Canadian hockey fandom.
Well, let's get to it. Reason number one why hockey fans should leave fighting to the players. An idiot actually knocks himself out while brawling in the stands. It's kind of hard to believe, but there's video of it. You can watch it.
But that's not how he knocked himself out. It wasn't the fight that he knocked himself out with.
Oh, well, I'll get there, my friend. A man writes, I know exactly what I was expecting when I saw the description. Man knocks himself out for this video. He says, but it sure as shit wasn't that. Maybe a case of friendly fire, maybe falling over the seats while trying to throw a wild punch and hitting his head on the ground. Either way, I wasn't expecting the fight is over. Everybody is going their separate ways. And Red Deer Rick decides to hype up that video by bashing his skull against the glass move.
He's so excited he won. He wanted to headbutt the glass. Yes, we won.
He says, I'll admit, though, this was probably the best way for this bozo to go out. The man was getting bullied up against the glass. He had his shirt pulled over his head and had his gut spilling out for the entire crowd to see. He was probably drunk and acting like an asshole the whole night. The man was completely humiliated there, but in his mind, he went out as a hero. The crowd was cheering, and he realized that his night wasn't going to get any better from there, so it was time to shut the lights off, wake up in a hospital, head back to wherever he came from, crush a gallon of malt liquor, and then do it again the next night. For this particular idiot, this might have actually been the best move. But everybody else out there, perhaps just consider the option that maybe you don't have to get into a fight just because you're at a hockey game. You can just leave that to the dudes on the ice who actually know what they're doing. Leave that to the dudes on the ice who everybody else showed up to the game to watch, engage in a bit of fisticuffs. Nobody paid money that night to watch a couple of drunk degenerates rub their bellies together for 20 seconds while throwing a combined 1.5 punches. They want to see shit like this instead. It says, great tilt, boys, great tilt. It's commenting on the video. Side note, entire story is still 20. They're talking about their story there. So this video we're talking about is just this guy, and I'm just going to sit and watch it here for a second. Okay, so there's two guys fighting. I'll call it commentary. They've got each other in headlocks. One guy puts the guy over the chair. The other guy gets backed up into the glass. He's fighting back. One guy gets a couple of side shots in. He's bending the guy over the chair. They back up into the glass. He's got the guy's head he's got his shirt over his head. And then they both have their back to the glass. The one guy comes around the front. And one guy's trying to break the two of them up. And the guy takes his shirt out from underneath or over his head. And then he headbutts the glass and knocks himself out, celebrating the fight that he just essentially lost.
Nobody won that fight. If you look, it's just two drunk guys. It's like if you picture two bears that are just bored. Right, yeah. So it was, they're kind of hitting each other.
Yeah, they didn't really punch each other at all?
No, they kind of slap each other in the belly.
Yeah. So nobody really won the fight. They're just two guys that kind of got each other in headlocks and they're barely punching each other. And one guy kind of punches the guy with his shirt over his head in the side. Well, when the guy gets his his shirt off of his head, he throws his hands up in the air like he won. He really didn't win anything. If it were a true hockey style point type fight, they would have booed him off the ice. And so to celebrate, he headbutts the glass.
And he doesn't just he headbutts the glass.
Oh yeah, he went full force.
Yeah, like he just scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl or the Game 7 of Stanley Cup. He scored the winning goal.
Yeah,
his headbutt. Yeah,
and he took
what I thought it was when I first saw the video, because I didn't read the headline. I thought it was two buddies were just celebrating their team had won, because that's what it looks like, doesn't it? Like two drunk guys are just a little too drunk.
Yeah.
And then I read that they were fighting, and I went, "Oh, okay, so this is a fight going on."
No.
And we know who won really here. The glass.
Yeah, the glass. The glass never moves, by the way.
No. That's bulletproof glass.
Well, the only time it shatters is if you really get like 101 mile an hour, 110 mile an hour slap shot.
Yeah.
Then that sucker will shatter. But it's rare.
And there's no way his head's going to shatter it.
No. Not that guy. So, Let's move on. Police say a woman shocked her neighbor. This is another you should probably keep your hands to yourself story.
Okay.
Okay. Police say a woman shocked her neighbor with a cattle prod during an argument over a party.
Because we all carry cattle prods with us when we talk about parties.
Yeah. So note to self, before you complain about the neighbor's party, make sure that they're not raising cattle. Yeah, just saying. We go to Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. Local police say a Pennsylvania woman is facing charges after attacking a neighbor with an electric cattle prod during an argument. It's a little over the line.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Lawrence Township Police say 33-year-old Bobby Sue Yatsko faces charges related to simple assault, recklessly endangering another person, and using an incapacitation device, which, by the way,
that'll
Bruiser,
incapacitate you.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that or not, but an electric cattle prod is an I can't even say it, incapacitation device. An incapacitation device, by the way.
It'll make you piss and shit yourself, too.
That's a good way of putting it. Officers were... Pepperidge Farm knows that's a shitting and pissing device. Officers were called Sunday, November 27th, around 1 a.m. to a home in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, for a report of a fight. Once there, the alleged victim reported being attacked by Yatsko outside his home after an argument over a party he had. Police say Yatsko is accused of using the cattle prod to shock the alleged victim multiple times in the body and face.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, ow!
She doesn't play fair.
No.
Police noted in the affidavit that Yatsko has a history of incidents with neighbors.
Of course.
So she's not the...
she's that neighbor.
Yeah, she's not the head of welcome wagon in her neighborhood. We'll just put it that way.
Welcome to the neighborhood. That's Bobby Sue. We ignore Bobby Sue.
You come here saying that you's gonna have a party? Not without me.
You have a party? You need to invite me? Huh? I'm gonna show you. I got me shocking stick.
We got two alternatives for you. I come to the party with my famous tater salad, or I'm gonna shock you in the face. You get to choose.
Either way, my tater salad's getting eaten.
My tater salad's getting tasted. Let's go on. A hospital patient is arrested for turning off other patients' oxygen machine. One of those keep your hands to yourself stories. There's a theme here, Bruiser. Keep your hands to yourself.
Somebody needs to go, hey, that's not a good prank.
Yeah.
Hey, let's turn off their oxygen.
Yeah.
No.
If you
need that.
You want to make the nurses laugh, unplug the little machine that keeps their vitals, because you can always plug that back in. And that's a ha, 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 ha. They all get a good laugh at the nurse's station. Nobody dies.
Yeah.
Right? The worst
they fake die. They don't real die.
Yeah, nobody really dies. You plug that back in, everything comes back up. It takes the blood pressure again. And nobody dies. Turning off the oxygen, somebody dies.
My father-in-law, when he would go into the hospitals and stuff, he always had this joke where he'd hold his breath really long until his heart monitor would start to freak out. So the nurses would come in and then he'd start breathing and, what's the matter? What's going on?
What are you in here for?
That's a good prank.
Yeah.
Unplugging their oxygen or turning their oxygen off is not a good prank.
Not a good prank. It's not easy to get your oxygen back that way. An elderly hospital patient was arrested after she turned off the oxygen machine being used by another patient in her room. Oh, of course, this happened in Germany.
This bitch, she breathes too loud.
It's essentially what it is, I think. Authorities in the German city of Mannheim said that the 72-year-old woman got out of her bed and switched off the machine because it was making a noise that disturbed her. You were on the right track there, Bruiser. Staff at the hospital quickly realized the machine was powered down and turned it back on. They informed the woman that the other patient required oxygen to live and asked her not to unplug it again. About an hour later, of course, the woman turned off the machine for a second time. Hospital staff rushed back to the room and resuscitated the patient, so the patient had died. Oh, what an inconsiderable little bit.
This will show her. This will show her from making noise.
I've turn it off. The woman who turned off the machine was taken into custody and transferred to a correctional facility.
Well, that's attempted murder.
Yeah, she's facing charges of attempted manslaughter.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Officials said that the other patient is recovering but still remains in the ICU.
I think the other patient came to and went, whoa,
And
what just happened?
And not as in ICU, I'm going to turn off your machine now. Yeah, but ICU is an intensive care unit. Holy shit, Bruiser.
Do you think in the new ICU they went, yeah, can I not have a roommate? My last one tried to kill me.
You would think that, if someone's been through that much of a traumatization where someone's turning off their oxygen, that maybe they move them to a private room.
You'd think.
Like the first time. Right?
This is too loud. It's too loud.
It's too loud. I cannot sleep. We will turn her oxygen off now, see if she survives.
If she survives, so be it.
Survival
if she dies, she dies.
If she dies, she dies. Another story of keeping your hands to yourself, kids. I don't know. You were told it as a child. It should ring true as an adult. Keep your hands to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Unless it's mouth punching time. if Bruiser calls mouth punching time, then it's all over.
Yeah.
Cops say a man hit a store clerk over a Karen crack. You've heard us correctly. 41-year-old Floridian faces a felony for battering a Dollar Tree worker.
Of course.
You're in Dollar Tree. They don't make that much money.
No, they don't.
Just let the stupid joke roll off your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Florida man is facing a felony charge for allegedly striking a female Dollar Tree employee who called his wife a Karen during a dispute over grocery bags. Oh, God.
There's a reason that they called her a Karen, dude.
Yep. She's complaining about grocery bags.
I think he was just upset because he knew he had to hear about it on the whole ride home.
That's right. Police were dispatched around 8:20 p.m. on Wednesday to the discount store in Clearwater, Florida, following an alleged battery on the 20-year-old worker. She's only 20. Come on.
Yeah. Why batter her?
Or fry her or whatever else you're going to do to her. According to investigators, Genesis Sanchez Canales, the Dollar Tree employee, got into an argument with a female customer over grocery bags. The customer eventually began to videotape the victim due to the verbal argument, an arrest affidavit says. In response to being filmed, Canales called the woman a Karen. At this point, cops allege the customer's husband open-hand slapped the victim to her left cheek. What, were you challenging her to a duel?
I'm going to do something your father should have done to you years ago. Go back to your stripper pole, Genesis.
I challenge you to a duel. When officers responded to the store, they arrested 41-year-old Jason Allen Dobbins. Since Dobbins has a prior battery conviction.
Oh, of course he does.
Yes, he does.
Against Karen, his wife.
Probably. He was charged with a felony for allegedly striking Canales. After being read his rights, Dobbins reportedly said there was a verbal altercation which occurred over the grocery bags, but that he no longer wanted to speak about the Karen confrontation. Of course he didn't.
I am done with this. She called my wife a Karen. I have to listen to it the whole way home.
I want to know. I challenged her to a duel. I want to know her answer right now. A Clearwater cop reported that the charged offense was observed by an independent witness. An arrest affidavit offers no specifics about the grocery bag dispute or whether Canales was injured. Dobbins spent the night in the county jail after posing how much bond, Bruiser?
$500.
Ooh, you got to go a little higher.
$1,000.
One more time.
$1,500.
$2,500 bond.
Okay.
Yep. Dobbins lives in Newport Richey, a Gulf Coast city about 25 miles north of Clearwater. Newport Richey, actually, is where all the well-to-do hang out that don't live in Port Richey. Let me show you 41-year-old Jason Allen Dobbins. You tell me, henpecked enough to slap a Dollar Tree clerk?
Oh, he slaps a lot of people. He's a slapper.
He is a slapper.
His shitty chest tattoo proves that.
Yep. He's not one to ball up the fist. He is a slapper. Slap on. Slap off. Slap on, slap off, the slapper. You give my wife those grocery bags, or I shall challenge you to a duel.
Go back to the pole, Genesis.
Another case, and this is kind of sad, but another case of keeping your hands to yourself.
No slapping people or turning their oxygen off. We haven't learned yet.
We haven't learned yet. This one actually happened in your neck of the woods, Bruiser. An 83-year-old Home Depot worker has died after being tossed aside by a shoplifter.
Oh. Well, they tell you that if you see the shoplifting, let it go. This is why.
This guy was wanting to stop a menace to society shoplifter who is now still on the loose.
He died again.
He did. An 83-year-old North Carolina Home Depot worker has died weeks after he was tossed to the ground trying to stop a menace to society shoplifter still on the loose.
Why is he 83 and still working?
The old guy?
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't make that much or doesn't have any retirement, or maybe he needs to subsidize his retirement.
I just think he's a busybody.
Really?
He's stopping menaces to society. He's 83.
Oh, yeah. Like my parents, they're in their mid-70s, but they can't afford to fully retire, so they subsidize their income by working part-time jobs.
Yeah, my parents do too. You're right. Okay, I digress.
Okay, because I think that's what this man was doing. 83-year-old North Carolina Home Depot worker has died weeks after he was tossed to the ground trying to stop a menace to society shoplifter still on the loose. Gary, I believe it's Razor, has been seen on surveillance footage stepping up to confront the man wheeling 3 Ryobi pressure cookers out of the Hillsborough store on October 18th, only to be shoved to the ground by the crook who then casually strolls away. Razor was rushed to a nearby hospital where he celebrated his 83rd birthday and made hopeful plans to see his new grandchild for the first time. Oh, that's sad.
That's sad. Okay, that's sad.
His wife told WNCN he died Thursday due to complications from the injuries received, Hillsborough cops announced the next day. The North Carolina medical examiner has ruled the death a homicide, police said, adding the hunt continues for a suspect they previously branded a menace to society. It's just beyond our comprehension that someone would do this for a couple of power washers, Razor's son, Jeff Razor, told WNCN. That is just mind-boggling, he said. Razor's widow, Yvonne, told the outlet her husband initially remained upbeat in the hospital until he saw footage of the attack. He lost it. He just lost it, she recalled. It's just hard. I know it sounds silly, but I'm still waiting for him to come back home, she said through tears on Saturday. I can't get him back. That's it. Police told the outlet that larceny is now being investigated as a possible homicide. Meanwhile, police continue their search for the 6-foot-tall suspect who wore a black mask and black Calvin Klein hoodie and fled in a white Hyundai Sonata with an obscured temporary North Carolina tag.
That's sad because the guy had to lose his life over pressure washers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't imagine there's a black market for pressure washers that would equal
there is
facing prison time for murdering an 83-year-old. And I know he didn't. His intentions were not to kill the guy. The guy jumped out and was trying to protect the merchandise, but still,
there's a lot of people are taking stuff like that, pressure washers, big time power tools. They're taking them right off the shelf from Home Depot and Lowe's and Menards, and they're putting it right on Facebook Marketplace, and they're making a fortune.
Really?
Yep.
So it is a big market out there, huh?
Huge market. Huge market.
Still not enough. If I was that guy, I'd turn myself in because his intentions were not to kill that guy.
Well, if he thinks he can get away with it, he's going to.
Yeah.
A guy like that is not a stand-up guy.
Not. Yeah, he's not me. Like if it was me, I'd say. Like if I got so low in my life where I had to do that, and I pushed this guy over, I later saw he died, I would turn myself in.
Yeah.
Because his intentions weren't, I'm going to Home Depot and steal these and murder a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. I don't think that guy has that much honor, to be honest with you.
I don't either, and I hope they find him, and I hope they throw the book at him.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? I hope he has to look that widow in the face and explain to her why he did what he did.
Yeah, especially an 83-year-old guy. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one is another one of those keep your hands to yourself stories. A brazen Burlington thief, we're talking, yes, Burlington Coat Factory, is about to get busted for boosting bags. I'm going to show Bruiser this story as I get done reading it because you won't believe how much this guy dragged through the door. A store surveillance camera recorded his felonious activity. A brazen shoplifter strolled out of a Burlington store in Florida on Black Friday with sacks of stolen goods and an array of purses and handbags that were daisy-chained and dragged out of the business.
I'm going to attach you to you and attach you to you and attach you to you. And here we go.
It's unbelievable. As first reported by WPLG, police in Hialeah, a city 10 miles from Miami, are hunting the thief whose face, forearm, and vehicle were clearly recorded by store security cameras. Sergeant Jose Torres said that investigators are currently in the process of identifying this individual, though an arrest has yet to be made in connection with the 8 p.m. heist on November 25th. It's unclear whether the male thief had accomplices. As he fled the department store with the $5,000 in stolen loot, the man passed a sign intended for departing shoppers. See you soon for your next treasure hunt.
I got me treasure.
And Bruiser, take a look at this picture of how much crap this guy is dragging out of the exit, and nobody's stopping this guy.
It looks like he literally just walked down the aisle and grabbed all he could.
He did. It's like Santa dragging out toys for the kids on Christmas.
Yeah, there's no way he looked at any of that merchandise. He's just like, I'm going.
Yeah, he just went in, loaded up, and walked out the front door.
He's like, I got all this. And he's not trying to hide his identity at all.
No. In fact, here's a picture of him walking into the store. They know who this guy is.
Oh, he's got the tattoos. Yeah. What is... First of all, I love that you... There's an ad on there that says "Dill don't."
Yeah. Well, I got that was the story we did the other day.
But second of all, like that guy is either really dumb or really ballsy because he's not doing anything to alter his look.
Yep.
He literally just went down an aisle, grabbed both sides of the aisle, and walked out of the store.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe he's actually doing that.
Yeah, he's going to be arrested in the next month. Like
I'm sure. Sure. Yeah. The next time that somebody sees him come into a store and grab some stuff, I'm sure he'll be caught. I think this is our short stint of maybe this is police stories right here. Maybe I think. Yes, our police stories. We have a short spat of police stories here to cover. We're going to start out, of course, they're Florida police stories. We're going to start off in Tampa, where the police chief resigns after trying to wiggle out of a golf cart ticket. This one actually developed over the last few days.
He's the police chief. Why can't he just make it go away?
Actually, it's a she.
Oh, okay.
And she can't make it go away because it's blown up into a huge controversy with video and everything.
Okay.
Tampa's police chief resigned in disgrace weeks after she tried to use her influence to escape a ticket when her husband was pulled over in an unregistered golf cart.
Gotta register your golf carts. Come on, guys.
That's right.
That's rule number one.
That's right. 51-year-old Mary O'Connor submitted her resignation effective immediately on Monday after Internal Affairs found she violated departmental policies when she flashed her badge at a Pinellas County deputy on November 12th and asked him to just let us go.
This is not the golf cart you're looking for.
That's right. Jedi mind tricks in the Tampa Police Department. I never want my personal mistake to stand in the way of the progress I have made in mending relationships between the police department and the community. So for that reason, I'm resigning, her resignation letter said, in part according to Fox 13 News.
She didn't go with the "I got caught, so I'm quitting."
No, that never goes over well. Yeah.
I got caught. My bad. I'm out.
The "oops, you got me" is never popular with the public. The departure came 3 days after O'Connor was put on leave in connection with the incident after body cam footage of her trying to Bigfoot the deputy in Oldsmar, Florida was released. How do you Bigfoot a deputy?
Don't you know who I am? Don't you know? We call it big timing in the wrestling business.
Oh, that's what it is. Big time. That makes more sense. Bigfooting a deputy would, to me, be putting on a Jack's Lynx Bigfoot costume and then trying to run over him.
To me, it's just taking shaky pictures of him.
Yeah, it would be too, yeah. The footage showed that O'Connor was riding in a golf cart without registration, driven by her husband in the seaside community about 15 miles outside the city. "Is your camera on? I'm the police chief in Tampa," O'Connor said while flashing her badge. "Oh, that's so cute. I'm hoping that you'll just let us go tonight," the law enforcement veteran asked the deputy, according to the footage. After the cop obliged, O'Connor handed him her card, saying, "If you ever need anything, call me. Serious. Thank you."
Here's my get-out-of-jail-free card.
That's
Go
right.
rob a bank.
The golf cart traffic stop incident came 10 months after O'Connor had been elevated to chief in Tampa. Prior to her resignation, the former top cop had said she was remorseful about her behavior, which she claimed was a result of poor judgment.
She's not remorseful about her behavior. She's remorseful about being caught.
That's exactly what it is. This was the first time we had exited the golf cart-friendly community in which we own property with this vehicle, prompting the need for a license plate. In hindsight, I realize how my handling of this matter could be viewed as inappropriate, but that was certainly not my intent, O'Connor said in a Friday statement. "I knew my conversation was on video and my motive was not to put the deputy in an uncomfortable position," she continued. "I've personally called the Pinellas County Sheriff, offering to pay for any potential citation." Assistant Chief Lee Burkaw had been named acting chief amid the investigation. O'Connor had been tapped last winter by Mayor Jane Castor, a former police chief, to fill the vacant top job, but her appointment was not without controversy. She had been fired from the department after being accused of punching a deputy during a DUI stop in 1995 with her future husband in tow. That, according to the local Fox affiliate, Castro said in a statement Monday she was especially disappointed in O'Connor's behavior because she had given her, quote, a second chance.
So what I'm getting here is this police chief, she likes to throw a few back.
You think so? You think she's a party gal?
I think so.
Yep. A little bit of a party gal, likes to take the golf cart to the...
You see here, Mr. Police Officer, I'm the chief of the police. This is my husband, and you don't see this golf cart. So let's just go on. Here's a card. Go rob a Burlington coat factory, and you get away free.
Go get all the purses and coats you can find. Yeah. You think she takes a cart to the Schwelen spot?
I think so.
Yeah. So there's no DUI involved? Yeah.
Yep.
I think so. I think she knows.
She learned her lesson from her first DUI.
That's right. That's right. She knows what she sows. Our next story, of course, emanates from Florida. A Florida man was surprised when he was arrested after slapping a police officer's horse from behind.
Get up.
Get up. A Florida man couldn't believe that he was arrested by St. Petersburg police officers after he slapped a police officer's horse on the behind.
I saw this in one of them there Western movies. That's how it goes, isn't it?
Didn't they do this in Blazing Saddles?
Get out of here.
Citing a police affidavit, WFLA, the FLA reported that mounted officers were performing lawful duties in the area of Central Avenue and 3rd Street North around 1:48 a.m. when 27-year-old Alicia Leilani was decided to hit the horse in the rear end. I bet you she thought she could get away with it and just be cute.
Yep. I bet you she thought the police would turn around and go, "Oh, don't do that."
Yep. An officer who witnessed the slap said that he saw Leilani walk behind his partner, who was also riding a police horse, open his hand. Oh, it's a he. Open his hand and slap the horse's rear end. He walked behind my partner, who was also riding a police horse, when I observed him slap the rear end of my partner's police horse with an open hand, the officer stated. Officer said that Leilani expressed surprise after they told him he was under arrest, claiming that he didn't know he wasn't allowed to hit the horses. Lalani was taken into custody and charged with battery on a police horse.
Wait a minute. You don't hit horses every time you see them? That's all we do. It's a time-old classic that we always do. You see a horse, you slap it. That's what you do.
People don't realize that police horses are officers.
Yeah, that's like with canine officers. You can't pet a canine dog without permission because it's an officer, and that's assaulting an officer.
Right. So just keep your hands to yourself.
I was just telling the horse good game. That's all I was doing.
Telling the horse good game. Just wishing him luck at the Derby. Don't you?
You don't slap your horse? Come on, we all slap horse. That's what we. You never heard that phrase, slapping the horse? We all just slap the horse.
That's right. This next story: when cops go wrong, Bruiser.
Well, they haven't gone wrong yet.
No, not quite yet. Not quite yet. A little golf cart action isn't exactly, isn't exactly getting into the dirt. This one is getting into the dirt, my friend. Former Brooklyn prosecutor cops to a role in a nationwide marijuana ring. This, according to the feds.
Oops.
Yeah, this is getting into the dirt, my friend.
Yeah, this is getting in there.
A disgraced former Brooklyn prosecutor has copped to federal charges that he helped run a nationwide marijuana distribution ring, including while he was trying cases for the DA's office. Are you ready for this? 36-year-old Ramy Judah admitted in Brooklyn federal court Thursday that he used his cell phone to help arrange for crates of marijuana to be shipped to associates in California from a New Jersey auto shop since at least 2014. This according to federal court records reviewed by the New York Post.
This is some law and order stuff going on right here.
Yeah, it is. Federal investigators said they nabbed Judah red-handed after he came on their radar during a probe, and they tapped his phone in late winter of 2016, catching him doing business with his cohorts. He reportedly worked as an assistant district attorney from April 2015 to May 2016. The gang used J&J Dumping Incorporated in South Plainfield, New Jersey, to ship out the crates, checking in on the deliveries and payments through hundreds of phone conversations. In a March 1st, 2016 call, Judah collecting money from others in the operation that was owed to another alleged member of the distribution ring, Richard Gambale, the records show. The other kid has to pay you so you can pay him, Atkins said. Judah answered, there is two more. There is 17,000 between them, and if get 10,000. It says, if I get 10,000, I think he said. Atkins said, do you really want to take them this long? Judah replied, well, I don't know. Stop talking on the phone. Yeah, whatever, Etkin answered. All right. Judah said, if I get them 15 grand, that leaves 12 grand left over, and I'll give you 6, and I'll give Richie 6. You know what I mean? Judah and the other defendants were named in a 2019 complaint. The FBI and the local police first clued into the drug distribution ring after one of the crates was stolen by two armed men outside J&J Dumping in March of 2015, that according to records. In court, Judah pleaded guilty to using his cell phone in commission of a felony and faces up to 6 months in federal prison. According to his profile on the website of his Mineola, Long Island law firm, Judah served as an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn before going into private practice, where he specializes in personal injury litigation. My guess is he treats your personal injury with marijuana. I'm just taking a stab at it, but that could be it.
So he was the guy that, okay, we can ship out of this doc because they're not doing an investigation. It's this doctor doing the investigation.
Yeah.
It's like true law and order stuff right there.
It is. It is. Just 3 more stories today on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. This is the ultimate dumb lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
You ready for this one, Bruiser?
Of course I am.
What's your favorite thing to make in the kitchen that's just fast? Just, you need fast food, fast carbs, fast whatever.
Either a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a cinnamon toast.
Good choices. Some of us are very, very hooked on the old Velveeta macaroni or Kraft macaroni. Which one's your favorite? Kraft Dinner or the Velveeta?
Velveeta. I like the thick cheese.
Yeah, I love me some Velveeta. Well, a woman is suing Kraft. I don't know if you know they're one and the same company.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Is suing Kraft, claiming Velveeta macaroni preparation time is misleading. This is such a stupid lawsuit.
I think I've heard this lawsuit be brought up.
And believe it or not, it's coming out of Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. The state that can't count because the meth is all up in their brain. A Florida woman is accusing Kraft Heinz of misleading advertising based on the time it takes to prepare a single-serving cup of microwavable mac and cheese.
She can't wait 3 minutes.
Yep. 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 3.5. You're right.
While the company markets its Velveeta shells and cheese as being ready in 3.5 minutes, Amanda Ramirez says that that's only the amount of time each cup needs to be microwaved. And that the actual preparation process from stirring in water to letting the cheese sauce thickens takes longer. Oh, dear God. Really?
She doesn't factor in. They didn't tell me prep time. Like, what's this prep time?
Shit. She does not specify how much that it takes longer. Evidently, she never
got places to be, man. She can only sacrifice 3.5 minutes.
I can't believe she didn't time herself to figure out how long it takes her to make this crap. A 15-page class action. It took 15 pages?
15 pages.
Of a class action lawsuit to get this thing filed. Filed earlier this month, alleges that parent company Kraft Heinz sells more of the product and at a higher price than it would if it didn't mislead consumers about the pasta's prep time.
You know, I took 15 pages because there's and that's on like every other page.
There's also another really stupid lawsuit here I'm thinking about telling you about, but I don't know. As a result of the false and misleading representations, the product is sold at a premium price, approximately no less than $10.99 for 2.39 ounce cups, excluding tax and sales, higher than similar products represented in a non-misleading way, and higher than it would be sold for absent the misleading representations and omissions, the court filing reads. That's weird. Ramirez's legal team says that she is like most consumers who seek to stretch their money as far as possible when buying groceries and chose Velveeta over other similar products because of the prep time prominently promised on its label. She wouldn't have bought it had she known the truth, she says. Oh, come on.
She's an idiot.
The lawsuit seeks more than $5 million in damages.
Oh, of course, because she can't afford all the other stuff, so she wants to get the $5 million so she can afford the good mac and cheese.
That's right. And looks to cover consumers in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Utah, New Mexico. Oh, it's a class action suit. Alaska, Iowa, Tennessee, and Virginia, who purchased the mac and cheese cups during the applicable statute of limitations period. It says
she is going to be so mad when 5 million people join this cause and they win and they each get $1.
Yep, $1 is all she's going to get. It says there are more than 100 such customers since the product is sold online and in stores across the country. The Kraft Heinz company called the lawsuit frivolous in a statement provided to NPR, saying it will strongly defend against the allegations in the complaint. While some might be quick to dismiss the case as cheesy, Ramirez's team says it's important to hold corporations accountable in all forms. Not like this, though.
She's gonna win, and here's why I say that.
What?
That old lady, yeah, because think about it. That old lady won the coffee thing from McDonald's because they didn't put caution hot on it.
Oh, come on.
So because they say it's ready in this much time, they don't have an asterisk or anything. And there's an idiot like that takes it at face value. She's gonna win. It's stupid. And then Velveeta's gonna have to go and spend all the money to change their boxes and approximately this long and all that because this woman is so bored that she can't spend more than 3.5 minutes making food.
Will Wright, one of Ramirez's lawyers, told NPR over email that while he's gotten some flack about the case, deceptive advertising is deceptive advertising. That's bullshit.
It is. It's 100% bullshit.
There are a lot of people that may feel that this is just a little fibbing and not really a case, and I get that, he wrote. But we are striving for something better. We want corporate America to be straightforward and truthful in advertising their products. He added, my firm also represents clients in what most would say are more compelling cases, arsenic and baby food, etc. But we don't feel corporations should get a pass for any deceptive advertising. That consumers deserve better. This is why you pay $3 a cup for mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Because of frivolous lawsuits.
Why aren't they going after the potato chip industry where you pay that money for what is supposed to be a full bag and it's not a full bag? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, because she's lazy or she's impatient. She's going to win this lawsuit. And Velveeta's going to go through all this, or Heinz is going to go through all this stuff to change all their packaging, just like McDonald's had to do. You know?
Yeah.
You knew once that old lady won that McDonald's suit, all this stuff's going to happen. That's why you have warning labels on stuff. Did you know that a lawnmower, listeners, go out, look at your lawnmower. There's a warning on there that says, do not cut your hair with this product. Meaning somebody out there tried to cut their hair with a lawnmower.
Get out of here, really?
Sued a lawnmower company. Yeah. You can go online and look up funny warning labels. But what that really proves is somebody out there is an idiot and tried this stuff so that they had to put these warning labels on.
Jesus. Come on.
Like a jet ski has a warning label that says, warning, water may enter orifices.
Oh, my God.
It's because of lawsuits like this.
That's ridiculous. You want to hear another stupid lawsuit?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Two Californians who bought, is it Barilla pasta or Barilla?
I think it's Barilla.
Okay. Barilla pasta, thinking it was made in Italy. Now they're suing.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Does it really matter where it's made?
Unless you buy it in Italy, it's not made in Italy.
It seems that the world that Matthew Sinatro and Jessica Prost are seeking to build, at least when it comes to spaghetti, they think that it all came from Italy. The two are behind a class action lawsuit against the pasta making company Barilla, which they say is deliberately deceiving shoppers by using the slogan, Italy's #1 brand of pasta, on its packaging. Despite the green, white, and red stylized Italian flags displayed on the blue boxes of angel hair, fusilli and bow tie pastas, I think that's what it is. A complaint has been filed in Northern California and notes that the majority of the company's products sold in the U.S. are produced in Iowa and New York and are not made with ingredients sourced from Italy.
You know what's going to be great is if they actually do a research and find out that it is the #1 selling pasta in Italy.
Yeah. That's what's going to get them, is if they do the research and find out. Yeah.
Because it doesn't say they're made in Italy. It just says #1 selling pasta in Italy.
Sinastro and Prost argue in their complaint that they were duped by the company's alleged false advertising and deceptive marketing practices, and that they would not have spent a combined total of $6 on Barilla products had they known the pastas that they were taking home were made in the United States. Instead, they would have opted for cheaper alternatives. So they're suing.
And the cheaper alternatives are probably owned by the same company.
Probably.
So you're giving the same company your money.
Probably. Barilla pasta that is sold in the United States is made in our plants in Ames, Iowa, and Avon, New York. With a few exceptions, Barilla tortellini and Barilla oven-ready lasagna are made in Italy, the website states.
Okay.
So there you go. The site also notes that the recipes used in the U.S. are the same that are used in Parma, Italy, and that the pastas are made by the same types of machines. The company's 2021 financial report states that the U.S. continues to represent the most important market in the Americas region. Court documents show that Barilla filed to get the case dismissed, arguing that Sinatro and Prost couldn't prove that they suffered financial harm. Sinatro, who lives in San Francisco, purchased one box of angel hair pasta for about $2, while Prost bought 2 boxes of spaghetti for approximately $2 each at a grocery store in Los Angeles, according to the complaint. The company moved to dismiss the case in August, but a judge rejected the request last week.
Like I said, they're going to prove that they are number one selling in Italy, and the case goes out.
There you go.
But idiots.
I know. 2 stories left here, folks. We're getting down to the not safe for work deal here. So get the kids out of the room, turn the radios down or the listening devices down at work. Don't let your boss know you're listening. So that's where we're at. We'll do this story, and then you're going to want to turn the listening devices down. Fentanyl was found stuffed in coconuts in a Mexican truck. That's the best way to do it. You know, if you ever get yourself a Mounds bar full of fentanyl, boy, that's an afternoon blown. Just saying.
A lot of sleeping, huh?
Yep, while you were sleeping.
It's Almond Joy's got nuts. Mounds don't,
Mounds
right?
don't.
So now is it Mounds got fentanyl, Almond Joy doesn't?
Yeah. Mounds bars got fentanyl. Almond Joys don't. Yeah. You got to have a benefit to both of them.
You do. Yeah. So you got the nuts with the one, and then the people that want the nuts but want the good high.
Yeah.
They get the fentanyl one.
Yeah, they get the fentanyl. They're going to rename Mounds Mounds of pure ecstasy, I think. That's what they're going to. I don't know.
Hospitals everywhere are carrying them now, from what I hear.
Yeah, Mounds of sleepiness is what they're going to call it. Mounds of sleepiness.
Mounds of punch me in the face, I feel nothing.
That's right. This drug bust was cocoa nuts, it says here. Police in Mexico found 660 pounds of fentanyl stuffed into coconuts and presumably headed to the U.S.
It's a lot of fentanyl.
Yeah, it is. Photos from the Office of Mexico's Attorney General show a white box truck with a mound of coconuts beside it. Bruiser, take a look at this picture. Look at this mound. Almond Joy's got nuts, but Mounds don't. That's mounds of coconuts with...
That's a ton of coconuts with fentanyl.
Yeah, it is. Isn't it, though? That's a lot being thrown out on the side of the road. I
wouldn't want to drink that coconut water.
Well, some people would. Some people wouldn't. I know a lot of people wouldn't live through it. Agents wearing gloves could be seen in a video opening the coconuts to reveal plastic bags filled with the deadly narcotic. Rows and rows of plastic bags were then lined up on the pavement. The coconuts were discovered Thursday in a truck traveling on a highway in the northern border state of Sonora. The road goes to the town of, is it Sonoita, I believe, which is across the border from Lukeville, Arizona. Bruiser, look at this. Look at this bag of fentanyl in one coconut.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That literally is a coconut full of fentanyl.
And there's 660 of them.
That... I can't wait till you get to how much that was valued at. That is a ton of fentanyl.
How many pills how many pills do you think's in one coconut?
Oh, there's got to be a couple thousand.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because that literally looks like a coconut. It's a blue coconut is what it looks like.
Yeah, just one big blue coconut full of fentanyl.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is something. 2 people were arrested, according to authorities. Mexico is the biggest producer of fentanyl that reaches the U.S. So there you go.
That is a ton of fentanyl.
They didn't say what the
I want to know what
was.
went into how they found out the coconut was full of fentanyl. I'm curious.
The drug sniffing dogs that wanted a pina colada afterwards. That's my guess.
You like pina colada?
And they're singing the song.
You like fentanyl
Cold in the rain. Yeah, dog singing along to the song afterwards. Yeah.
I'm going to take a picture now of Ziggy just having a pina colada out of a coconut. Send it to you. I thought I was going to get fentanyl with this.
There's no fentanyl in my pina colada, Daddy.
I don't know if she'd eat it. She doesn't like vegetables. We tried giving her carrots and celery the other day.
Yeah?
Wasn't having it. I even put peanut butter on the celery. She ate all this peanut butter.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Not having it. I don't know if I can get her to get a pina colada.
Unless you steam a vegetable, I don't think vegetables are dogs' friends.
I don't know.
You know? I mean, you gotta steam it and then cool it down so it's kind of soft so they can, maybe put it in their kibble,
Yeah.
Like if you're making like a meat and rice type deal for them, like a homemade mash, Then you could probably put some carrots and celery, but you got to steam them up and kind of put it in with the meat and everything.
Well, she had, when she was having tummy problems, we had pre-made dog, wet food that had carrots in it. That's sort of like, oh, we're having carrots for dinner. Let's give her a carrot. And then I was sitting down and I had a jar of peanut butter and celery sticks, and I was, going to town. She was sitting there. I'm like, I wonder. She didn't like it.
She didn't like, no, I don't
She loves peanut butter. She didn't like the celery.
I don't think they're big on raw root foods. I think you have to steam them up.
Which is weird because she eats everything else.
Yeah, I think it's just the texture,
She was constipated the other day because she got into Mrs. Bruiser's headphones and some paper towels and Q-tips and God knows what else she ate.
Oh.
So she was kind of just looking at us all night like, I want to poop so bad, but I can't.
Oh, poor puppy.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
She's fine now. In fact, she's making Mrs. Bruiser upset right now as we speak.
Oh. This is probably not a good story to read then after we come off talking about Ziggy.
Well,
it's a horrible transition. Should probably talk about something else and then talk about Ziggy.
Sure. My weekend was great.
What's that?
My weekend was great.
There you go. What'd you do this weekend?
I did nothing this weekend because I did too much last weekend. There
you go. Yeah, that works. Green Bay Packers. What do you think of the Packers?
I'm glad I live in North Carolina now. We don't get the Packer games.
Yeah, you're. Did you see that Mrs. Bruiser's boy is going to get released?
Yeah. Trust me, I've been hearing about it all day today.
Have you? Mrs. Bruiser's not happy.
Nope. But he hasn't produced.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I'm a little upset 'cause both my team, the Packers won, but Kansas City still can't beat the Bengals. I did watch the end of the Jets-Vikings game there, Mr. Boss.
Oh, man.
I don't know what they were thinking for that last 2-minute drill.
I don't know.
They stopped the Jets with literally a minute something left.
Yep.
And they just decided to run the ball a lot.
Yeah, that made no sense.
What are you doing?
No.
What are you doing?
You're still, you there's less than 7 points there. So you got to drive the ball. You got to maintain the ball for over a minute and a half. You got to drive down the field. If it wasn't for
that amazing defensive play at the end, they wouldn't have won.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't put it back on your defense. Your defense isn't all world, so you got to drive the ball down the field, and you got to kill the clock with your offense.
Yep.
It's just basic football 101.
Yep.
And
they didn't do that.
No. The team astounds me. I have no clue how they're 10-2. I couldn't.
When we were watching the game yesterday, I said to Mrs. Bruiser, I go, Tim's throwing stuff at the TV right now.
Oh, yeah.
She goes, really? I go, oh,
Yep.
yeah. Because they should not be as successful as they are. And the only reason they're number one in their division is because their division sucks.
That's exactly what it is. Not only that the division sucks, but they've gotten a favorable schedule.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realize is, sure, you got a new coach who came in and invigorated the offense, but they took a backslide on defense.
Yeah.
And they also got a favorable schedule. So now you're talking about going into the playoffs and everybody thinks you're going to do something. Mm-hmm. I got news for Vikings fans. This is a one and done team.
Because we were watching the Philly game before it. And Philly's amazing this year.
Yeah.
And then it switched over because Philly was winning by so much. It switched over to the Jets Vikings. Mm-hmm. And I go, now look, same record, essentially, the Vikings and Philly. Mm-hmm. But I go, watch the gameplay.
Yep.
Especially the offensive gameplay.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah. And she goes, I don't get it. I go, nobody does.
Nope. They're a mess.
Yes.
They're a mess. If they look like that through all of December, they're done.
Yeah, they're not going to go far in the playoffs.
I don't get it. When Cousins took that shot to his left side, I was hoping for Mullins. I really was. I was hoping he'd come out there and be the savior. And somehow Cousins got back up and played the rest of the game.
That's right. After last week, because the Packers are essentially out of the playoffs, I'm like, they should just play Love the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Just give him reps.
But then,
who cares about whiny Aaron Rodgers? Let him heal and give Love reps.
Yep. But then here comes Rodgers saying, "Oh, I can play."
Yep.
And again,
just because it's Chicago and he wanted to show he owns Chicago and yada yada yada. I mean, that's fine. You can do that, but let Love play the rest of the year. You're out of the playoffs. You're not going to get in the playoffs.
But then again, you took a quality start away from Love.
Yep.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. I mean, the kid needs all the reps he can get because you got to figure out next year if you're drafting a quarterback.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
there we go. Sports talk before not safe
That's
for work.
right.
Boobies and beer and boobies segment.
Well, I don't know if there's any boobies involved here, but there's something going on. It's in Clearwater, Florida, Bruiser. I hope you got the listening devices turned down, the kids out of the room, the boss out of the room. Dear God. We go to Clearwater, Florida, where the police department there says a Florida man had sex with a dog in front of people, damaged church property, and a mailbox.
That's a lot to take in right there.
The meth is strong with this one, Bruiser.
Yeah, oh yeah.
An Orlando man was in Clearwater when he had sex with a golden doodle in front of adults and a child, damaged a nativity display at a nearby church. See, when you pull Jesus into it, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
There's a child involved, too. He's definitely going to hell.
Yeah. And then tried to steal a vehicle afterwards, police said. Sunday, police arrested 36-year-old Chad Mason, of course his name's Chad, on several charges, including sexual activity with an animal, exposing sexual organs, and criminal mischief to a place of worship. That day, officers responded to an apartment complex in the 2600 block of McMullen Booth Road at around 4:30 p.m. According to Mason's arrest affidavit, he knew the owner of the dog and was taking the golden doodle out for a walk in the apartment complex. That's not what we call it in my neighborhood.
Do you think he's blaming the golden doodle? Hey, she came on to me.
Listen, you are demonically possessed if you're screwing a golden doodle. I'll tell you that right now.
But they are hyperallergenic.
Well, I don't care what they are. Then he started having sex with the dog in front of witnesses. How do you go from let's go for a walk to I'm going to screw that golden doodle? That does not, those two don't compute.
It's never crossed my mind.
Never.
I've never gone, Ziggy, let's go for a walk. And
no.
Nope, never.
Nope.
Not once.
Nope. So then he started, doing the doodle with the doodle, with the dog in front of witnesses, including adults and a juvenile who was less than 16 years old. This, according to police.
Did he want to prove he could do it or something? Why did he need witnesses?
I have no idea, Bruiser.
Like, hey,
no idea.
You guys are my witness. I took the dog for a walk. She wanted it.
No.
No, I know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just trying to.
It's at that point that our good Lord and Savior Jesus Christ comes down from heaven, touches Chad on the head, and says, "You're going to hell."
Well, slaps the shit out of him.
Well, yeah, he pimp slaps him first. He puts a little bit of baby powder in his hand, pimp slaps the shit out of Chad, and says, "I cast thee to hell." I mean, there, he doesn't even have to die. He's just going to hell. I smite thee, motherfucker. That's what he'd say. Anywho.
I've never, out of all the fetishes in the world, I've never gotten bestiality. Never once have I looked at a horse and went, hey.
Oh, God, no. Bruce, that's horrible. Police said Mason ran to the Northwood Presbyterian Church where he knocked over a nativity display. See, that's where Jesus comes back a second time, puts more baby powder in the hand. Again, bitch slapping all day long.
What I think happens there is, so Jesus comes down while he's doing the golden doodle, bitch slaps him to hell. Mm-hmm. Satan then slaps him back.
Oh,
he knocks over the nativity scene. Jesus goes, "What are you doing back here?" Slaps him back to hell.
Right. Yep. That's where he broke potted plants on the way back down. Yeah. And he tossed children's toys from the playground area. Now, see, that's just being egregious.
This guy's a dick.
Yeah, egregious.
He's got to get some better meth. He better call the police to check his meth next time.
Yep. Oh, that's a good point. Officials estimated about $400 in damages to the church. After leaving the church, police said he damaged a mailbox in the adjacent neighborhood and tried to steal a car before he was taken into custody.
Of course he did.
You, Chad Mason, get the dick of the week. That's all there is to that.
Hopefully the dog owner sues him.
God, I hope so. I hope everybody sues him.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, Jesus slaps him and goes to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Smites him from above. Brings that big, mighty hand up with plenty of baby powder on it and right down to hell. Well, that'll do it for today's Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. We'll be back tomorrow with supernatural news, and we have some of your Parashare on hand. Right, so we've got Parashare letters. I don't know. I think we might have an audio file as well for tomorrow. Big show for tomorrow. And then Thursday, we have a tribute show for Linda Godfrey, who passed away last week. Linda Godfrey, of course, was the journalist, the researcher who discovered the Beast of Bray Road in Wisconsin.
Yep.
We will have Jay Bachochin and two other researchers who appeared with Linda in her last project, which is now on Amazon Prime. So we will...
She actually got me into Beast of Bray Road. I read one of her books.
Yeah.
And that's how I got interested, and I've been to Bray Road numerous times because of her.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's coming up on Thursday. We will do a tribute show to Linda Godfrey with Jay Bachochin. Is it Lee Hermel and Sanjay? My apologies, Sanjay. I don't remember the last name. But all colleagues of Linda Godfrey, worked with Linda for well over a decade, if not more. And we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about Linda. We're going to talk about the last project that she did in her life that's now on Amazon Prime. And we're gonna remember Linda on Thursday. So that's what we're gonna do. Bruiser, tell people where you're gonna be.
I am going back to good old Green Bay, Wisconsin this Saturday for RPW wrestling. Get to go back to the home state, say hi to some people. Mrs. Bruiser's coming with me. We're gonna spend a couple extra days to see family and whatnot, and then we're heading back to North Kakalaki.
Right on. How much can I pay you to wear a Vikings jersey to the ring?
Well, I'm a big baby face, so I can't. You forget, though, my friend, my mother is a huge Vikings fan. Remember, I always tell her Chris Carter can do no wrong.
Right.
Because to her, Chris Carter is a saint. Right. In fact, my daughter still has the original Chris Carter jersey my mom bought her she's 25 now, 25 years ago.
I got a Carter and a Moss jersey in my closet that'll fit you if you ever want to use it.
I can just call her and get a Carter jersey if I wanted. She'd love it if I said, hey, Ma, let me wear your Carter jersey.
That would, that would get you instant bad guy heat, wouldn't it?
Well, not right now because the Packers suck.
We could custom make a Vikings jersey with Rodgers' name and number on it for you. And
I could just find a Favre Vikings jersey. That would get me heat.
That's true. Yeah. That's true, because they kind of warmly invited him back into the Packers' little Ring of Honor there, didn't they?
Until this whole stealing millions of dollars from welfare came about.
From the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
We call it volleyball gate. Isn't that what we're calling it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
So he's not beloved anymore, and
you know what? That all happened when I moved here to North Carolina. So here in North Carolina, I've just been getting how great Baker Mayfield is, and now how horrible Baker Mayfield is. So,
prediction. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Or as Heyman would say, not a prediction, but a spoiler. Quarterback number 3 for the Green Bay Packers in a matter of days?
Baker Mayfield. Agreed.
Either that or he ends up in San Francisco.
Yeah, because Garoppolo went down yesterday, didn't he?
Yep. He'll have a home within a matter of days.
Oh, yeah, he's going someplace. He's still got, if he can get the right people around him, he's still got some in the tank.
Yep.
He's a Jay Cutler. He's a Jay Cutler. He's as good as the people around him.
Yep. And he could potentially be halfway decent in San Francisco for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He won't stay there long. He'll finish a year out until their rookie's healed.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see that.
So, but not a bad patchwork guy until you get somebody over in Green Bay.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. But knowing Green Bay, they won't pull the trigger.
No, I don't think so. So. But that's, again, Sports Talk Part 2 here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. But we'll leave it for tomorrow. We'll pick it up tomorrow and we'll bitch, piss, and moan about our teams for a short segment. But in other words, tomorrow, Supernatural News on Darkness Radio. Today, we want to thank you for joining us for True Crime Tuesday here on Well, here on Darkness Radio, we have two different shows. We mix them up every once in a while, Bruiser. But for Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for once again joining us for another week here on True Crime Tuesday. We want to thank our guest today as well. Again, the book is A Nest of Snakes. You can get it on Wild Blue Press, and you can check out our guest Deborah Levison as well. All of her information is in the description of this show. So for Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us for True Crime Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow for Darkness Radio.